What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your host, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today. We got 6 amazing topics that we're going to be getting down for you guys today. We got some Matrix talk going on, as a possible Matrix 5 certainly might be in development. We got some huge Star Wars news as we're going to dive into the Tales of the Empire trailer, along with the writer, or I should say Dawn of the Jedi, getting itself a fantastic writer. We're also going to dive into some Avatar, The Last Airbender news over on Netflix. We got a stacked show, ladies and gentlemen, so we'll see you on the other side. What's up, y'all? Good afternoon from Fort Worth, Texas here, as I'm here to go ahead and present a brand new weekly episode of A-Plus Hero Report for you guys. Rolling solo dolo today. I don't have my full crew in tow here. I believe Indy might be a little bit under the weather. I know Stuart's got something very important going on this weekend. But if anything, I should have Stuart back next weekend, and we'll see if we can get Indy as well. I probably should have reached out to some other collaborators. I probably should have reached out to like Will or Sarah or somebody else to go ahead and co-host with me, but maybe next time I'll go ahead and have certainly a co-host with me. But guys, look, it's Sunday afternoon, wherever you guys might be at. Hopefully, hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend so far. The weather is beautiful out here today, but we are actually expecting some crazy rain and thunderstorms tomorrow, which bugs the hell out of me because listen, I was really looking forward to the solar eclipse out here. It's actually it's supposed to be right in our visibility for like the full eclipse itself tomorrow, but we are expecting like cloudy skies, thunderstorms and stuff. So it really may just mess up all of our solar eclipse plans that we certainly had in mind for tomorrow. So I'm a little bit bummed. I am praying to God that please just part the skies just briefly so I can check out this eclipse for myself, because it's supposed to be a pretty big event, and who knows? I have no idea when another solar eclipse is set to happen out in the Texas area. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully keeping my fingers crossed that we get the opportunity to see one tomorrow. But look, guys, I hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. I definitely am. It's WrestleMania weekend. I'm a huge wrestling fan. For those who haven't been following us here at A-Plus Hero Report, we've been doing a lot of wrestling coverage, go home shows leading into WrestleMania. We actually just released our night 1 review yesterday evening. We went live, and we're probably going to be doing a night 2 review later on today as well. I believe it might just be Datila and Josh doing it for you guys tonight, but another exciting evening of wrestling to go ahead and certainly break down and get into today. So like anytime it's WrestleMania weekend, I'm already hyped, to be quite frank with you. Only thing missing is me being in Philadelphia. I wish I was actually there in attendance. Yeah, guys, look, if you've been watching WrestleMania, certainly go ahead and let me know some of your thoughts, how you've enjoyed the weekend so far. So look, guys, we got some honorable mentions that we're going to be breaking down for you guys today. We got 6 main topics. We're going to get into some Matrix talk, Avatar, The Last Airbender. I think we got 2 Star Wars items. We're going to get into some Fantastic Four news along with Supergirl news. And then towards the end of the show, we're going to be getting into your guys' live viewer questions. If you want to submit a live viewer question, just go over to our YouTube channel, click on that community tab, and there is in fact a live viewer question post if you want to go ahead and submit one over, and I'll definitely get to it towards the end of the show. Marcelino, always with the complaints, man. Yeah, it's just me again, Marcelino. And Datil is busy this weekend, okay? She's very much a wrestling girl. And she's very busy when it comes to NXT, Stand and Deliver, doing a ton of coverage on her own. But look, I have no problem running this ship and manning this ship. I've been doing it for years myself, so trust me. I'm looking forward to another great episode of A-Plus Hero Report today. We got Enrique. What's up, Enrique? He says, just saw the official trailer for the U.S. digital release of Digimon Adventures. Very cool, man. I'm glad you enjoyed the trailer itself. He also says Disney shareholder event Bob Iger confirms live action Moana movie will be in theaters 2026, along with Toy Story 5, Frozen 3, and the delayed Snow White live action in 2025. Yeah, he also confirmed The Mandalorian and Grogu, I think, dropping 2026. He already teased it earlier in the year, the potential release date in 2026, but he didn't give a definitive one. But this week, The Mandalorian and Grogu has an official release date set, and that is, in fact, May 22nd of 2026. So I'm looking forward to seeing that movie, and really the idea that movies are happening, y'all. Movies are happening. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed for this Rey Skywalker movie. If anything, um, I know that I believe last I heard they were trying to get the final script in. I don't know if Steve Knight has finished the script for it as of yet, but there's a part of me that's really hoping that that movie starts getting in front of cameras by the end of this year, so that we can have another late 2026 movie as well. But I haven't heard any updates in regards to that as of yet. But look, May is right around the corner. So maybe we will have ourselves some announcements for more Star Wars in May. So definitely a lot to look forward to. But guys, let's go ahead and kick off this show with our first segment, shall we? And for those of you who are not familiar with honorable mentions here, really just a couple topics that I want to go ahead and bring to your guys' attention. Didn't quite make the top six, if you will, but topics nonetheless that we felt you guys should certainly still know about. Let's see here. Where should I kick off at? The Acolyte is back in the news this week. Empire Magazine is doing a big cover story for the Acolyte. They've already released, I think, like 2 or 3 articles to dive a little bit deeper into the series. If you want to go ahead and check them out, they are currently up on our Facebook page. But with those articles, we did get ourselves some brand new photos, which I think look pretty amazing. This was really from like the final shot of the Acolyte trailer that we wind up getting when we see the red lightsaber and everybody starts activating their lightsaber blades. So I'm glad that we got ourselves a nice crisp picture of this particular image, because it definitely gives me Clone War vibes from Attack of the Clones for sure. But really looking forward to seeing them in action. They even went ahead and released one of Amandla Stenberg, who's going to be playing the mysterious character May. They gave us a brand new image of her here, and another one of Carrie-Anne Moss playing Jedi Master in Dara. Look, again, I've mentioned this before, but I am such a sucker for green lightsabers. I feel like blue and red dominate Star Wars so much, but I'm definitely a green lightsaber guy. Probably because of the fact that I grew up during the Return of the Jedi time, remembering Luke Skywalker in his all black outfit, rocking the green lightsaber. I became a fan instantly since that moment on. So really thrilled to see Carrie-Anne Moss in here, and even reading the headlines or reading the articles from Empire Magazine. Showrunner Leslie Headland really wanted to tap into sort of the Trinity side of Carrie-Anne Moss, and really sort of represent Trinity in Star Wars to a certain extent. So, Carrie-Anne Moss had a ton of great things to certainly say about this particular project. And if she can bring some of these Trinity isms, if you will, to Star Wars, the more the merrier. But really looking forward to this series. And if anything, I would expect that we would get more details come May 4th. And for those of you who don't remember, May 3rd, they are in fact releasing The Phantom Menace back in theaters to celebrate, I think, the 25th anniversary or 20th anniversary. Correct me if I'm wrong in there, but during the 3-day release, May 3rd, 4th, and 5th, they will be doing a sneak peek of the Acolyte. So we'll probably get a little bit more. I don't know if it's going to be just a brand new trailer, if it's going to be like an extended clip with a new trailer attached, who knows? But I definitely expect to see more information from the Acolyte come this May. We also got a brand new poster here for the Joker 2, Joker Folie à Deux. Set to go ahead and drop October 4th of this year, as we get to see Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we're supposed to be getting a trailer this week. I believe it's like April 9th. So this upcoming Tuesday, we should be getting ourselves our first look really at the Joker. If anything, I'll try and do a review for you guys up on our channel. So definitely look forward to that. What else do we have in here? Last week or the week before, I think we talked about a Maggie Gyllenhaal film that Christian Bale was getting ready to go ahead and film, titled The Bride, which is really supposed to be an adaptation of Frankenstein's Bride, if you will. And we got some first look photos here of Christian Bale as a Frankenstein monster himself. I thought it was a really incredible image here, just to kind of see the prosthetic work, the makeup work on him also. But I thought this was a really great sort of visual image. I think they were doing some screen testing, and this is where these images certainly come from. And then it looks like we have the bride herself, that, if anything, I would assume would be Frankenstein's bride. But interesting love story that I think Maggie Gyllenhaal is really going to tap into when it comes to this. This is one that I think is kind of sneaking under the radar for some of us, but one that I'm highly looking forward to. And I think, I was already interested on the premise and the excitement level that Christian Bale had about going into that film. But now that I get the opportunity to visually see just what he's going to look like, what the bride is going to look like, I believe filming has in fact begun. If anything, I think the images just get me even that much more excited, to be quite frank with you. And then last but not least, we have some incredible Daredevil Born Again set photos that went ahead and released this week. We officially have John Bernthal on the scene. That's right, our first time getting an opportunity to see John Bernthal on set, and we got some incredible images here as we get to see John Bernthal and Charlie Cox in their costumes, as the Punisher is very much rocking his skull vest from the original Netflix series. Look, I'm just gonna say this. I'm Look, I don't know what Daredevil Born Again is truly going to look like when we get the opportunity to see it in screen, but I just want to give kudos to Marvel Studios for having the guts and the wherewithal to understand that what they had before wasn't working, and really going back to the drawing board and giving us something that's going to feel a lot more like the Netflix series. They definitely brought in um, veterans from the Netflix era series to go ahead and really right the ship. I believe they wind up bringing the Punisher writer into, or as part of like the Punisher showrunner or writer, as part of the Daredevil Born Again crew also. So they definitely are going in the more serious direction when it comes to Daredevil Born Again. But we did get some great images of them on set. These images actually come from Daredevil updates, or I think it's D Devil updates on Twitter, if you guys want to go ahead and check them out. But yeah, they've been posting some incredible photos. You get to see the blood on here, again, really highlighting the skull. Marvel is really not holding back in here. I think for me, the idea that they have made Echo TVMA, they really are kind of tapping into knowing what the fans certainly want to see, and they're definitely not shying away from it whatsoever. So Disney is in fact embracing their TVMA sort of series once again when it comes to some of these street level characters, and I think they absolutely should. People were big fans of that tone when it comes to the Netflix series, so why fix what's not broken? You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to it, man. I think John Bernthal looks great, and again, I always say this before, but these actors talk really heavily about the idea that they really wouldn't return if they didn't feel like the story was there, if they didn't feel like these characters were being done any justice. And I think, especially when it comes to John Bernthal, because he seems like he really covets the Frank Castle character. I think he really connects with it, especially appreciating like Army veterans the way that John Bernthal certainly does. You know what I mean? I think he really has been able to tap into the inner mind of Frank Castle. And if anybody is going to be very protective of how Frank Castle is kind of used in the future, it's definitely John Bernthal. So the fact that he's on set, that he's joined Daredevil Born Again, I think should speak volumes in regards to what type of story we could potentially get here. Let's see. We got Ram Jam in the house. What's up, Ram Jam? Good to see you. He says, can't for stream, just passing through. I appreciate you coming through, Ram Jam. Not sure if you dropped the live viewer question, but I'll definitely check it out for you, man. Johnny Marrero. What's up, Johnny? Good to see you in here, man. Nathan Moore says, "I hope Disney doesn't ruin this." I mean, me either, man. Me either. I will say some of the images that I have seen look incredible, but again, they're just images. We have no idea what the story is certainly going to be or how much they've really changed up Daredevil Born Again. So I'm hoping that they really made their corrections and we get something great. I don't believe we have a release date as of yet for this series, but we'll definitely keep you guys up to date. But that will do it in regards to all of our honorable mentions for today. You know, even though it's like 1:30 in the afternoon here, I'm still sipping on my coffee, man. We have a local coffee shop called Summer Moon right around the corner from us, man. Probably some of the best coffee I've had from a shop in a long time. Like to the point to where like when I drink Starbucks now, Starbucks just feels so like watered down to me. Like it's really hard to drink Starbucks now these days, but I need that boost to go ahead and get through this afternoon, y'all. But let's go ahead and get into our main topics for today. And the first topic that comes to us is, in fact, going to be in regards to The Matrix. That's right. Believe it or not, The Matrix is back in the news here this week. I believe we just had The Matrix Resurrections that wind up dropping back in 2021. For me, I had to go back and I had to go back and watch my review for this particular film, and I could not. I don't want to say I couldn't remember if I enjoyed it or not, but I guess that probably speaks volumes in regards to like, did you or did you not? And when I read when I listened to my review, I was pretty positive about it, and for good reason. I certainly still felt that this movie fell by the wayside in certain areas, but I thought the concept itself was certainly smart and pretty meta for the time period that it was in regards to really focusing on us as a society and the idea of like what we consider truth and fiction. The idea of us really sort of tapping into our own feelings more than really believing what we're kind of reading, and looking at the truth in the sense of how things make us feel more or less than actually believing factual stuff that's kind of going on around us. And I think the Wachowskis in here at least did a really good job in making it a much more modern take on what the Matrix certainly is like. And so in that regards, I certainly appreciated it, especially along with the love story that we wind up getting once again between Neo and Trinity in here. Is it the best Matrix film? No, not by a long shot. But I also don't feel like when I watched Matrix Resurrections, I also didn't feel like it was a heavy movie in the sense of having to digest so much like what we had to do with Matrix Reloaded. Matrix Reloaded, I thought was just like word vomit, that I think really kind of confused me at times, to be quite frank with you. But I think Matrix Resurrections was a much more easily digestible film in and of itself. Doesn't mean that it was a great film for everybody. I definitely understand people's resistance and certainly pushback against that film. But for me, I think I walked away enjoying it certainly for what it was. I think I saw some of the good aspects of it. But regardless, the movie didn't do very well in theaters. I don't believe the critics really cared for this movie either. In fact, let me actually look up what the Matrix Resurrections Rotten Tomato score certainly was. Let me see here, because I'm kind of curious as to how the audiences perceived it. If you did have the opportunity to see the Matrix Resurrections, let me know some of your thoughts in the comment section box below, what you thought about it. Okay, well, you know what? Look, it actually came through like a D plus, maybe 63% and 63% audience score based off of what Rotten Tomatoes have. So both of them consider it still decent films, not best, but passable, if you will. That's very much like a passable grade when it comes to it. So I'm not writing home to anybody about it. But the reason why I bring up Matrix Resurrection is despite the fact that it didn't really perform well in theaters, Warner Brothers is in fact going back to the well. That's right. They are in fact have a Matrix 5 currently in development. So let's go ahead and dive into this and see what's going on here with the future of the Matrix. This comes to us from Variety.com. Matrix 5 in the works with Drew Goddard as the director, Lana Wachowski as executive director. So they are going back to the well. And I feel like this is something that we have heard from big studios as of late. Bob Iger has talked about this, really relying on franchises that are extremely popular, right? IP, intellectual property that people will come back to certainly see. The Matrix in the past, at least, has been certainly a moneymaker and certainly driven interest for studios like Warner Brothers and whatnot. So, when you hear things like Bob Iger saying, look, we want to focus on our main big franchises like Toy Story and Frozen and things like that, even though we've had several iterations of them again, they're going back to the well because they know that financially it's probably usually a good bet. And you're always going to have a fan base certainly surrounding them. So let's dive into what Variety is saying here about a potential Matrix 5. It says the studio announced that a fifth Matrix movie is in development. It'll be the first installment without Lana and Lily Wachowski as directors. Instead, the Martian screenwriter Drew Goddard will handle filmmaking duties. He will also write the script and produce with his partner at Goddard Textiles, Sarah Esberg. Lana Wachowski, who helmed the most recent Matrix installment in Resurrections, is attached at least as an executive producer. It is not clear who from the Matrix universe, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, have anchored all of the prior films. But it's not clear as to who exactly will return. Plot details haven't been revealed, but Warner Brother Pictures president teases that the story will advance the fantasy world without straying too far from what made the series a success. So this is what they said here. It says, Drew came to Warner Brothers with a new idea that we all believe would be an incredible way to continue the Matrix world by both honoring what Lana and Lily began over 25 years ago and offering a unique perspective based on his own love of the series and those characters. Excuse me, and those characters. The entire team at Warner Brothers is thrilled for Drew to be making this new Matrix film, adding his vision to the cinematic canon, the Wachowski spent a quarter of a century building here at the studio. It does say here that Goddard was nominated for an Oscar for writing The Martian, which was a great film. The sci-fi adaptation directed by Ridley Scott. His other feature film credits writing Cloverfield, which I was a really big fan of, and World War Z, which I think still holds up to this day in regards to it. Like, I'm a big fan of World War Z, honestly. And serving as writer-director on The Cabin in the Woods, which a lot of people were big fans of too, and Bad Times at the El Royale. I don't think I've seen that one yet. It is not this is what Drew Goddard says. It is not hyperbole to say the Matrix films changed both cinema and my life. Lana and Lily's exquisite artistry inspires me on a daily basis, and I am beyond grateful for a chance to tell stories in this world. So look, it says it did gross about $159 million worldwide against its $190 million budget. So yeah, the Matrix Resurrections did not do very well whatsoever. Definitely a box office flop. But I did read something this past week that mentioned the idea of, like, Matrix Resurrections, we have to remember, had some extremely stiff competition that it was going up against that same very weekend. I mean, it was having a deal, I think, with the juggernaut of Top Gun Maverick at the time. And there was another movie that I had mentioned that I had read that it was going up against too. So it definitely has some stiff competition. But you would still think that with the name alone of Matrix, that it certainly would bring more people in. But it definitely had a difficult time at the box office. And I think I can't remember if this was one of those release in the theaters and release simulcast also on streaming. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like it did both of those things, so it might have automatically undercut itself at the box office. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong in that regards. But look, it is interesting to me that we are going back to the well here. And I've seen people already kind of hint at the idea that, look, this is just gonna be another money grab, that this is just a cash grab. I joked around about the idea, like, is this going to be like the Sony's Madam Web, right? The idea of them just coming out with just making a movie to make a movie, to hold on to either the rights or to try and satisfy some fans, but don't really have the excitement to certainly make one. And I do think that there are probably some people that feel that way in regards to the idea of what maybe the announcement of a Matrix 5 can certainly be. But there is a part of me, to be quite frank with you guys, that wants to be an optimist about this. And I say that because while I don't think the Matrix Resurrection sucked, because I did have a good time with the film. I actually decided to try and rewatch it again last night, and I unfortunately passed out. That's what happens when you watch a movie at like 2 o'clock in the morning. But so if anything, I'm probably gonna go ahead and revisit the film also, because I was a big fan of the cast, and I do remember enjoying some aspects of the story itself. But I think what separates Matrix 5 for me from anything that came before is Drew Goddard. There is something I think appealing to getting a brand new vision and a perspective of a franchise that's been around for so long. Drew Goddard is certainly no slouch, like, whatsoever. I mean, I think you can look at his IMDb alone and say, like, yeah, this guy's made some really great content out there. Has all of his stuff been spectacular? No, but the guy definitely knows how to write. He definitely knows how to make compelling movies. And for somebody in Goddard who has been a big Matrix fan, has appreciated what the Wachowskis have certainly done before, there is a sense of like a freshness that I think Drew Goddard can certainly bring. Maybe he's got his own messages, maybe he's got his own visions, maybe he's got his own brand new characters or some really compelling stories. I will even say this so much. I don't know if Kiana or Carrie Ann Moss is certainly going to come back. There might be some people that might say, how can you have a Matrix movie without either of them? But I would be perfectly okay if neither of them or neither of them showed up in this particular film. I mean, look, I'm never going to say no to Keanu Reeves. And I think the way that the last film ended, it feels like maybe if there is any role, maybe it's the Trinity role that certainly might continue. But who knows? I would be open to seeing some really fresh new characters in here. If they want to have Neo and Trinity maybe in a smaller role for Matrix 5, I would be completely on board with that too. So I don't necessarily think it's out of the question that this is going to be another throwaway. Like, I think if they had mentioned to me, we're going to bring back Lana Wachowski to do another one, then I certainly might have my hesitation about this film. But I think Drew Goddard, in his own right, has proven himself as a filmmaker to take over this particular franchise and really inject some newness that this franchise is certainly lacking. Because at the end of the day, it's really all going to come down to the script of this film. And again, I think Drew has certainly proven himself over the years of what he's certainly capable of doing. So, I'm not going to sleep on this. I know that this news can come across as like a cash grab for Warner Brothers. But I do think, just based off of what the Matrix is, the plethora of stories that you can certainly continue to tell in this world, I think is a ton. I think they've got some really great ideas, and if Warner Brothers has been moved so much by what Drew Goddard has given them, because it's one of those things where, you know, there's a part of me that wants to think that after Resurrections, I mean, we're literally only like 3 years separated from that movie, that you, as Warner Brothers, you might want to sit on that franchise maybe just a little bit longer, just because of the fact that people still have that taste in their mouth from the Matrix Resurrections. And so maybe you would want to keep it sort of in the cupboard just a little bit longer, sort of thing. So to have somebody that is a fan of the franchise pitch them an idea that they felt this is certainly movie worthy, I'm gonna pay attention to that. So I'm not gonna look so much to this as a cash grab And I think it really comes down to who they have behind the camera. And with that being Drew Goddard, somebody that I certainly trust when it comes to making great movies. I mean, this guy's an Oscar nominee. I'm gonna pay attention to things like that. And so we'll see what happens here, man. At the end of the day, it could be really tragic and another bad stop for Warner Brothers when it comes to the Matrix world. But I just think it's such a vast world that you can do so much stuff with it. You know what I mean? But I want to hear what some of you guys are thinking in here. What's up, Indy? Indy coming through at least via comments here. Marcelino, he says, the most common criticism I heard regarding Matrix 4 was that it came off as more of a parody of the Matrix. I can understand that, but I think if people view it simply just as a parody to the Matrix, there's a part of me that feels like they're missing the larger point of the movie. And I think they should probably dig maybe just a little bit deeper into it, because I totally get the concept of a parody. And I think there are elements to the movie that's supposed to come across certainly as a parody at times. But I think because it comes across that way, there's more to it than just that. Nathan certainly says the last film wasn't needed. You could definitely have that argument for sure. You could definitely have that argument for sure. That's one of the reasons why I don't have a problem with people having pushed back against the Matrix Resurrections, because I don't think it was certainly going to be a movie for everybody. But I do think that it had some pretty interesting takes from Lana Wachowski, which I really appreciated for a more modern time, based off of just where we were when it comes to like social media and stuff, and fake news, if you will. It was just, I thought it was a really interesting take, but I totally get it if it's not for everybody. Because I think I would give Matrix 4 a 4 out of 10 or 3 out of 10, as it comes off more confusing. Interesting ideas that got neglected. Some scenes were missing context. The recast in Trinity wasn't in it a lot. Yeah, he says Matrix 4 also released along No Way Home and will simultaneously release in theaters and streaming. That's what I thought, right? So I mean, look, you already have Spider-Man No Way Home. You already have Top Gun Maverick, I believe that it was going up against too. And then the simulcasting for Matrix 4. I can easily see why people decided to go ahead and stay home on this film. So that does not surprise me, certainly whatsoever. So some stiff competition for sure. Nathan Moore says the only question that should be asked: can you make it better than the original films? If not, this is a mistake. Sorry to sound negative, but I see a flop coming. You know, I will say this. I don't necessarily know if you can make a better film than the first Matrix, but I think an argument can be made. Can you make it better than the second and the third? Can you make it better than the fourth? Um, you know, if anything, I would say, like, I was a big fan of the third Matrix. I know a lot of people certainly weren't, but I thought it was a really great sort of culmination to the trilogy. If anything, it was probably Reloaded that I didn't really care for, the second one. But I know some people that will say they didn't care for the second or the third one. So when you say, can you make it better than the original films, plural, my question would be, can you make it better than 2, 3, and 4? And I think if you can do that, then I think you can be successful in that regards. I don't think you need to make it better than the first Matrix movie. I think that's certainly going to be a really high bar to certainly set for yourself. But I think Drew Goddard, again, if you look at his IMDb and you see some of the great films that he's certainly been behind, can he make it better than those movies? Absolutely. I personally think so. Absolutely. I think I think the mindset of a flop is coming is based off of the idea of, like, the last memory they have is the Matrix Resurrections, which for some people wasn't moving enough, which I totally understand that regards. And then remember, Matrix Resurrection was probably also looked about as a flop incoming, because of the fact that there was probably a group of people that didn't necessarily care for the second or even third Matrix either. So, when you hold the first Matrix up to such a high standard, I think that's kind of, I don't want to say it's an unfair bar to certainly set for Warner Brothers, but my bar would be, can you make a better film than Resurrection? Can you make a better film than Reloaded and Revolutions? Then if you can do that, then I think you might be on to something. So again, I'm not going to be immediate one of those cash grab or believe that this is going to be an immediate flop. Again, this is not coming from the same creators. Again, if it was maybe a Wachowski film once again, then yeah, I probably would feel a little bit more negative about this than I do. But I think it's important to understand who the creator is going to be behind this particular entry, and if we can open our eyes to give Drew Goddard the benefit of the doubt in the sense of being open-minded enough to say like, okay, let's see what your vision is going to be. This isn't necessarily going to be same old, but how can you take the concept of the Matrix and flip it on its head and really give us a fresh take on it? And so, again, I think it's important too when you bring people in that are fans of the franchise, that really have a true love for it and aren't just coming in because the studio just decided to hire you, sort of thing. The fact that Drew approached them with a pitch, I think is pretty eye-opening in and of itself. So I'm going to give Drew the benefit of the doubt here. I'm going to give him the opportunity to do something different that the Wachowski certainly couldn't. And for all I know, maybe it could be better. So I'm going to continue to stay open-minded about Matrix 5. But trust me, I'm no pushback against anybody that feels a certain way about the idea of a Matrix 5 and rolls their eyes, because Warner Brothers has not done itself sort of any justice in regards to making a good a great Matrix film in a while. All right, but let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. And I'll be frank with you guys. Like, I do feel like I tend to be very much an optimist when it comes to movies and television. And I say that in the sense that I feel like I give movies and TV series a lot of room to breathe and benefit of the doubt. Because for me, I really try not to put an expectation on the film that I haven't quite seen yet, and I think sometimes if I come at a film a particular way before I've even seen the script or even before I've seen a trailer, I feel like I'm undercutting the creator's sort of vision, like I think we all tend to have our own ideas of what we want to see a certain movie to be, especially one that, especially if it's part of a franchise that we've come to know and love. But I think sometimes, you know, especially the idea of bringing somebody fresh in, I definitely want to see what they can do here. But I feel like I just, maybe it's a detriment to me at times to be so um, positive about new developments to some of our beloved franchises. I just try not to worry too much about what they're going to do and let them just do their thing. Just let them cook, and then when it comes out, if it's trash, I'll say it's trash. If I have good things to say about it, but still with some issues, I definitely will bring those to the forefront. I'm definitely not the type of person that will say everything is great, and trying to make excuse for everything. So we'll see. We'll see what Matrix 5's wind up holding up. But it definitely surprised me. I will say I did not see a Matrix 5 coming, like, at all. So the fact that Warner Brothers decided to even make this announcement really surprised me. So, and I think in part that's another reason why I'm like, okay, maybe they have a story certainly worth telling here, because I expected this to be on the shelf for another 5-10 years, to be quite frank with you. But all right, guys, with the Matrix out of the way, let's go ahead and go into our next topic here. As do I have an image for this one? I don't believe I do. But we're going to get into Avatar: The Last Airbender, y'all. We just had a brand new Netflix series that wind up dropping earlier this year. For those of you who did not check out our Avatar: The Last Airbender review, it is currently up on our YouTube page. Stuart did a fantastic job in reviewing the series for you guys. And if for somebody like myself who didn't get the opportunity to check out the animated series, or I still haven't even finished the live action series myself, honestly. But I wanted somebody to do the review that I knew had understood the lore, had grown up with the animated series, and really can compare and contrast the animated to the live action series. And so I thought Stewart did a really great job of somebody that's seen the series before breaking down their own thoughts on the live action series. So if you want to get our thoughts on it, again, the Avatar Last Airbender series review is up on our channel. But I wanted to talk about this because apparently, while we already have seasons 2 and 3 announced for Avatar The Last Airbender, it looks as though the showrunner, Albert Kim, who wind up doing the first season, has in fact departed the series. I found this pretty fascinating that he's already exited. There's a part of me that feels like he already maybe had this plan, but let's go ahead and dive into this article. This actually comes to us from deadline.com, saying The Last Airbender executive producers Christine Boylan and Jabbar Razani to lead the show as Albert Kim moves on. Let's see exactly what's going on in this particular situation here. So it says the Avatar The Last Airbender is making a showrunner change. Albert Kim, who served as a showrunner and wrote the pilot for the live action adaptation, is moving on, with Christine Boylan and Jabbar Rezani taking over leadership of the show as executive producers for season 2 and 3. Kim shepherded the show for nearly 2.5 years and will remain on the show as an executive producer. He has just signed a deal with Disney to join Percy Jackson and the Olympians as an executive producer after it was renewed for a second season. So Albert Kim is moving on to other projects. Boylan was a co-executive producer on the first season. She previously worked as a co-executive producer on series like Citadel, Poker Face, and The Punisher. It says Last Airbender has been a hit for Netflix. The series debuted in February and topped the streamer's weekly TV list with 21.2 million views on its opening weekend. It was quickly renewed for seasons 2 and 3, concluding with the third, filming both in close succession in order to mitigate the fact that child actors tend to grow quickly. It says Kim replaced the original creators, Michael DiMartino and Brian, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name, back in 2020. Sources told Deadline that Kim was looking for new opportunities after the long development process on Avatar. So, this might not have necessarily come as a surprise for Netflix and the Avatar team, because it seems as though Kim maybe had the idea of like, look, I'm just going to do one season and then I'm going to bounce. He will now move to Percy Jackson as well as look to develop new projects. The series comes from, I'm trying to see if there's any other information in here. Doesn't look like there's any other information here. But I bring this up because I do find this extremely fascinating. And I mean that in the sense that, I have my impressions that Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of came in with mixed reviews. I think there were definitely fans of it, and I think there were definitely fans not of it. I don't necessarily think if I would be kind of curious to know what Stewart's final grade for Avatar: The Last Airbender certainly have been, but I don't believe him and Indy were super fond of the series itself. So the fact that Albert Kim is leaving, this series itself, I think, I don't want to say is in trouble, but you already had the original creators leave this series because of the fact that the series isn't quite what they envisioned their Netflix series to be. And in turn, Albert Kim really kind of stood up and took over that mantle and gave us what we saw in season 1. And despite the fact that when it comes to Netflix, that it did have a ton of views and a lot of people certainly watched it for what it was, I still feel like there was definitely still some mixed reviews about it, some pushback in regards to it. And with Albert Kim kind of leaving, now you're on like your third creative team. to go ahead and put this series together for seasons 2 and 3. This could be a really big loss for Netflix, or really big win. So I will say this: I'm a little hesitant as to what seasons 2 and 3 are going to be like now. You're getting somebody else's completely different vision here. Two executives now coming on board to technically be the new showrunners of this show. I do feel like this seasons 2 and 3 will feel significantly different than what we got in season 1. Whether or not that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, that I don't know. I'm personally not too familiar with some of the past work that these two executive producers have certainly done in the past for them to step up to now take over seasons 2 and 3. But apparently, they have plans on filming them back to back relatively quickly. In order to go ahead and make sure that these children don't age too rapidly out of their roles. So, I would be a little bit skeptical about this. If I had known what a lot of their past history would have been like and seen what they've been able to do as showrunners on other shows, maybe it would be a little bit more fascinating to me. But the idea again that you are technically on your C-level team of creators to go ahead and bring seasons 2 and 3 to life, I am wondering if they're really depending on the success of season 1 and the idea that, look, regardless, we're going to get people that is going to certainly come back. But I would be concerned to kind of see what the level of storytelling is going to turn out to, unless they've already mapped out sort of these next 2 seasons, or if this is something that they certainly still have to write. I'm kind of hoping that Albert Kim at least gave them sort of like the groundwork as to the story that certainly needs to be told. But there is a part of me that, while excited to see a new vision, um, it does put into question for me some concerns that I definitely might have. Is like, I don't think this is going to be too great for the last 2 seasons of Avatar, but I certainly hope that I'm certainly proven to be wrong in this regard. So, if anything, I think it speaks. There's a part of me that is kind of curious as to why Albert Kim decided to leave. I know, according to the sources here from Deadline, that this might have already been in the works for him to join Percy Jackson and the Olympians. But when you've got such a big show like Avatar: The Last Airbender that clearly did numbers for Netflix, his idea of departing and leaving that behind, makes me curious, like, what direction are they going into for seasons 2 and 3? Did he think that it was going to hurt his reputation? Did he want to bail ship before he even got to a season 2 and 3? Could he see sort of the writing on the wall when he wind up getting the reviews in and thought to himself, hey, I'm going to really focus on other projects more and more? The idea of like somebody that helped make the first season a success for Netflix wanting to go on and do bigger and better things when it comes to Disney. It just makes me wonder, what is season 2 and 3 truly going to be like? And now I'm bringing in a third creative team to work on this series. It just smells rotten to me. So yeah, I'm a little bit hesitant about this one, y'all. But look, if you were big fans of Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix, I would be really curious to know what you guys think about this particular move of the showrunner of a show that you enjoyed now departing, moving on to other things, and getting somebody else to kind of step up into that role. Are you excited for it? I definitely would like to know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. I got to finish this series. I really do. I enjoyed the first 2 episodes from what I had the opportunity to see. I did feel like some of the performances were a little bit wooden at times. I thought the special effects and the martial arts were incredible. I had a really good time with that. I thought the kid that played Aang, I think he comes across as a 12-year-old that doesn't really have a solid sort of background in acting. But he does hit some really great emotional moments in the first 2 episodes that kind of really draw me in to see potential there. But I think some of the chemistry and some of the performances were a little bit wooden. But I'm, if anything, I would kind of hope that as the series progresses, that that those performances get better, as the actors get more and more comfortable in their role, comfortable with the people that they're acting opposite off of, sort of thing, and really build some sort of level of relationships with their co-actors. So we'll see. I do plan on finishing The Last Airbender, though. I almost started it last night, but then decided to go ahead and start on Matrix Resurrections again. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. What is my next story here? I'm going to go ahead and get into our my Star Wars bag. We got two Star Wars topics that I find pretty interesting, man. This week, I got to tell you, I almost feel like the Lucasfilm knocked the internet on its ass this week as we wind up getting ourselves a brand new trailer for a project I didn't even know was necessarily in the works. And that is, in fact, Tales of the Empire. This is, in fact, going to be the sequel to Tales of the Jedi that we wind up getting last year. I think it was just like a 6-episode series. Had the opportunity to focus on several characters. I believe really they had like 3 episodes surrounding Ahsoka. And then I believe that they focused on Count Dooku in the second set of episodes. We got the opportunity to even see like a young Qui-Gon and see like the Master and Jedi Apprentice sort of combination between those two, Count Dooku and Qui-Gon, which I was a really big fan of. And I think it really captured people's minds of like, oh man, what other tales are they going to tell, right? Like what other Jedi can they possibly focus on and whatnot? I had no idea that they were going to flip the script and give us a Tales of the Empire, this time surrounding Barriss Offee and Morgan Elsbeth, who we've most notably seen during the Ahsoka series. I think we saw her very briefly in Mandalorian season 2, also in the Ahsoka episodes. But she had a very prominent role in Ahsoka season 1. But the trailer in here was mind-blowing, man. They really just captured my imagination for this. I cannot wait for May 4th. Some great visuals in here. And I'm really surprised. It looks like we're going to have the opportunity to really focus on Barriss Offee, which is so fascinating to me. And I say this because literally like a week or two ago, I think it was Marcelino in the live viewer question that had asked us about the idea of like, do you think Dave Filoni is going to pick up Barriss Offee's storyline? Why do you think we hadn't seen her necessarily more of her so far? And I think I had like a 2-part answer. The first answer that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me, Marcelino, that I gave was, I don't know. Like this story felt like it was so far gone that even though Dave Filoni said he had other plans for her, the fact that we still hadn't seen her, I was like, maybe it's just a story that he's just decided to drop. Maybe it's just one that he wasn't going to do anymore. The storyline was so much older. He hadn't really focused on her in quite some time. Maybe it's just something that Dave Filoni's just got bigger fish to fry, right? We got an Ahsoka season 2. He's got an upcoming movie. It could be the case that Dave Filoni's just not even going to focus on Barriss. But there's also a part of me, if I'm not mistaken, Marcelino, I think I said maybe there's a possibility that we get to see her in like another animated series, like a Tales of the Jedi sort of thing. But I was not expecting this to be where she certainly pops up in, but it just made that it made that much more sense for her, that if you want to go ahead and continue Barriss Offee's story, I don't know if it's like an entire Ahsoka season 2 worthy story, but maybe this is sort of like a buildup to what potentially Ahsoka season 2 could certainly revolve around, because it does feel like we are going to get probably, even though this series is going to be focused on 2 different characters, I'm assuming probably 3 episodes for Barriss and then 3 episodes for Morgan Elsbeth. And if you give me 3 episodes of Barriss Offee, I would love to see just like 3 different time periods of what happens with Barriss. Clearly, we get to see her in here approached by the Grand Inquisitor to become an Inquisitor. It looks like she's going to be under the tutelage of Darth Vader by the end of this series. There's a part of me that wants to see is Ahsoka going to be in this series too? And they just have not mentioned her whatsoever, because that's another thing that I found so fascinating about this trailer, was that these are two characters that are very Ahsoka driven, right? Clearly, Morgan Elsbeth has a past with Ahsoka. We've seen her very much involved in the Ahsoka series. And so does Barriss Offee. They both have two great connections. So there is a part of me that wonders, come at least maybe like the third episode of Barriss, maybe even the third episode of Morgan, will we get sort of like a confrontation between each of these characters and Ahsoka? Will this sort of even lead into maybe a bigger storyline that Barriss has for Ahsoka, and maybe we get to see her pop up again in season 2. But I even just went ahead and rewatched the Clone Wars episode where Barriss is standing in front of the Senate and she gives her confession. Anakin makes her tell the truth about her sabotaging and really blaming the attack on Ahsoka and whatnot. And she really foretells the downfall of the Jedi in here. It's super impactful, and to see that to a certain extent, she certainly was telling the truth. Mentioning the idea that, look, the Jedi have just really become a weapon for the Sith, kind of pulling the strings, if you will, and turning them sort of um, um, into soldiers. And I think when you look back at the prequel series, that's definitely a concern of them, in the sense of like, should we be the ones becoming soldiers for the Republic? And Barriss Offee sees the writings on the wall, but she clearly just takes a completely different trajectory than what we saw of Ahsoka, who eventually wind up sort of leaving the council. So Barriss has definitely had a huge impact on Ahsoka's life. And for me, I'm really thrilled to see that at the end of the day, um, that Dave Filoni has not forgotten about this character. I know Marcelina has definitely asked me about this character for quite some time, really wanting to see Dave Filoni fulfill his promise on the story that he has for Barriss, and this definitely looks like this is what we're going to get here. So I'm really looking forward to at least 3 episodes of what Barriss Offee, how her story certainly unfolds here. And then we also have the story of Morgan Elsbeth, a character that, again, while we've seen a lot of recently, we know very little about. I absolutely love the sequence in here when she's fighting off against General Grievous. I didn't expect General Grievous to even be in this series either. I love seeing her like enchanted swords that she was certainly using, going up against his dual lightsabers also. Working alongside Thrawn, sort of devoting herself to him and really providing him with knowledge and expertise that he certainly didn't have before. But having somebody that's associated with the Night Sisters and stuff, I mean, Thrawn definitely is going to take advantage of this. But again, it builds off of what we've seen in Ahsoka. Getting the opportunity to finally see like origin stories, if you will, seeing how these two wind up meeting. And I will be really fascinated to see like what 3 pivotal episodes and really moments in her life will they highlight to really teach us more about Morgan Elsbeth, and then maybe even go back and watch that one episode of The Mandalorian, watch Ahsoka season 1, and just have fresh new eyes kind of going into things. So I think they did a really great job in setting this up, and I think potentially giving us an idea as to where things might go for Ahsoka season 2. And again, I think because both of these characters have such a deep attachment to Ahsoka, I either expect her to be in this series in some capacity or another, um, or even a prelude to a bigger story that will lead into season 2. So look, if you're a Barriss Offee fan, I think this might get you even more excited about potentially, I don't know where it's going, but potentially maybe seeing a little bit more of her, maybe possibly in season 2. So I'm super excited for this. Marcelino says, I wonder if we'll get more versions like Tales of the Bounty Hunters. That's like literally an alley oop, just a layup for them if they certainly wanted to. Tales of the Rebellion, High Republic, First Order. I'm not gonna lie, I do want to see another Tales of the Jedi. I truly do, but I literally have Tales of the Bounty Hunters on my bookshelf back here. Let me see if I can actually find it real quick. Yeah, Star Wars, Tales of the Bounty Hunters, right there. Um, and it's definitely some interesting perspectives for sure. You got a tale of IG-88 in here if you wanted to, the tale of Dengar, the tale of Bosk, the tale of Boba Fett. A ton of potential that they really could dive into if they wanted to. Maybe give me an IG-88 and a Boba Fett. I would honestly take both of those in a Tales of a Bounty Hunter. Maybe even a Bosk. But if anything, I am really looking forward to the Tales of the Empire, and especially because of the fact too, they're so easily digestible episodes. They only come in at about like 15 minutes. You could probably watch 4 or 5 within a good hour and nearly be done with the series if you want to. And so I really appreciated that level of storytelling, tight, succinct, just really 3 pivotal moments in their lives that really help you understand who they are as characters better and really fill in some great sort of backstory, if you will. And so, if anything, I am expecting at least the Barra stuff to pick up very much after her trial and her going to prison. Maybe we see, and again, I would be kind of curious if we'll see if she survives all the way till something like the New Republic era that the Ahsoka series is certainly taking place in. So you still have like that original trilogy sort of time period that they can really play around with if Barris has certainly survived that long for some of her storytelling. He says, I hope Barris Offie episodes is just a stepping stone for more for her in the future. It potentially could be, which I think is even more fascinating to me. Marceline says, I mean, no disrespect to the late Ray Stevenson. I think it was a good actor, but I always envisioned the role of Balin being filled by Barris and nothing would change. I don't know what they have planned for Balin when it comes to Ahsoka season 2, but maybe this is fulfilling that role, right? Like if Ray Stevenson isn't gonna be back, but you have somebody in mind that can maybe take over that role. Um, maybe that is a Barris Offie. Maybe that's one of the reasons why we're getting something like this. But I got to think that Tales of the Empire was probably very much in the works before the passing of Ray Stevenson. But maybe Dave Filoni already had intentions for Ahsoka to play, or I should say, Barris Offie to play a role in Ahsoka. But again, that's just speculation on my part. We could just get these 3 episodes for Barris Offie, and that just really be the conclusion of her story. So that's another reason why there's a part of me that thinks, like, I would not be surprised if Ahsoka does pop up in this series. Some people felt Morgan Elsbeth was underused in Ahsoka, especially when Thrawn came into the picture. Yeah, I mean, for me, Ahsoka, I enjoyed Ahsoka. There were just moments of the pacing that really kind of threw me off too. I was not necessarily a fan of the dialogue sometimes. It still felt very much like an animated series written into live action. That sometimes just does not work when it comes to live action, if that makes any sense. So I'm hoping the approach for season 2 of Ahsoka is a little bit different. But yeah, I can understand that idea. Some people don't like the small runtime for Tales. They think it should be longer, like 35 to 45 minutes. I think that's that I would probably disagree with. I think for me, I think the idea that they are shorter is what makes them work as well as they do. Now, like, we haven't had anything animated from Lucasfilm, I think, that had episodes that were like 45 minutes long. If we were going to do live action, then yeah, maybe 45 minutes would work for me. But animation, I feel like you can get your point across. I think they did such a good job with Tales of the Jedi in the 15-minute span that they had. I say if it's not broken, don't fix it. And I think it could certainly work for. I think if anything, people just want 35 to 45 minutes because the series was as good as it was. But I think it might take away from the series a little bit if you make the episodes a little bit longer. But that's just my perspective. But what do I know, right? But I think Tales of the Empire, definitely excited. May the 4th is looking to turn out to be a fantastic weekend for Star Wars fans for sure. Again, getting that sneak peek of the Acolyte, getting the re-release of the Phantom Menace in theaters. I think some theaters are even doing a marathon of episodes 1 through 9, also that entire weekend. And now we're also getting Tales of the Empire with much more focus on the dark side and the Empire side of things. Yeah, man, people are hyped, and I definitely expect more announcements to certainly drop come May the 4th for sure. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below. Have you had the opportunity to check out the trailer? If you haven't, I highly recommend that you certainly do so. And if so, what are your thoughts? Let your thoughts be known in the comment section box below. I was trying to find another image for this one. Before I get into my next topic, let me give you guys a quick reminder here. Again, if you want to go ahead and leave a live viewer question, this is like the halfway mark to our show, if you will. If you do have a live viewer question, feel free to go ahead and submit that over to our YouTube channel. Click on the community tab, and there is, in fact, a live viewer question post for you guys. Go ahead and drop that down below. I'm trying to see if I want to find an image here from Celebration that we just recently had. Okay, here's an image. Will this let me download it? Of course I won't. Just bear with me here, guys, because we are going to get into another Star Wars topic. As recently, the most recent Star Wars Celebration introduced us really to brand new eras of Star Wars, or at least broke down the new eras for us. As it looks as though we're going to begin exploring eras that have not necessarily been explored before. We do have the Acolyte, what's going to be taking place during the High Republic era. That's going to be taking place. I believe the Acolyte is set like 50 to, I think it's 100 years before the Phantom Menace, which is actually the tail end of the Star Wars High Republic era. But recently, they wind up giving us announcement at Star Wars Celebration for 3 upcoming movies. The first movie that they were going to be focusing on was going to be The Dawn of the Jedi, which is set to, I don't even know what the time period is for that one, like 2,500 years, like 2,500 years, or maybe 25,000. I can't even remember what it's going to be, to be quite frank with you. But we're going to be exploring that aspect just a little bit here. Let me go ahead and bring up this timeline for you too. I actually thought I had all these images saved, but I guess not. Let me go ahead and bring up this image for you guys, and then we'll get into our main story here. Okay, so this is what they revealed at Star Wars Celebration. The canon timeline, if you will. So we've got Dawn of the Jedi, which, if you can see here from the far left, is James Mangold. He's going to be creating a story based off of the very first Force user. That's going to be taking place during the Dawn of the Jedi era. We're very much familiar with the Old Republic. We haven't seen any Knights of the Old Republic aspects or anything like that yet, as far as movies or television series wise. We've got the High Republic era, which is solely in novel form right now, which I highly recommend. If you guys love reading, if you have, or even you haven't picked up a Star Wars novel, you want to check out more about the High Republic, get to learn about that time period before we even get into the Acolyte, I highly recommend it. Then we got the prequel era, which is the Fall of the Jedi. Then we've got the Rise of the Empire, which takes place in between the prequels and our original trilogy. You've got, damn, what does that say? Age of the Rebellion, which is in fact the original trilogy. And then, of course, we've got the New Republic era, which is where you've got shows like The Mandalorian, Ahsoka taking place. I think even the Skeleton Crew certainly might drop, Boba Fett, all that's within this area. Then we've got like a 30-year jump, and then all of a sudden we get into the Rise of the First Order, which is in fact your sequel trilogy. And then we wind up having, which you could see here from the very far right here, the lady in blue. She will, in fact, be writing and directing, or I believe directing, a brand new Rey Skywalker film, which will kick off the new Jedi Order era of Star Wars. So we had 3 movies announced. James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi. In the middle, we had Dave Filoni, who's going to be doing a film during the New Republic era, probably wrapping up all the key storylines that we've had from series like Mandalorian and Ahsoka. And then, of course, the first or the new Jedi Order movie as well. So we got a lot of moving pieces when it comes to Star Wars in the future. But one of the missing pieces, and one of the first things that we have come to learn this week, and one of the things that I've been looking forward to, is really James Mangold's The Dawn of the Jedi movie. A lot has not really been spoken of that film. James Mangold, most notably known for his time on, I believe it was Ford v Ferrari. He also did Logan as well. He most recently tackled Indiana Jones 5. And now he's set to go ahead and helm Star Wars The Dawn of the Jedi. And as that film, who knows how far along that film is certainly going to be. But we wind up getting news this week, which I thought was pretty eye-opening, that it has officially found a co-writer. So James Mangold is not going to be doing the heavy lifting simply by himself. James Mangold did go ahead and pitch a story to Lucasfilm, and they were all on board with it. And it seems as though now they are set to bring in another co-writer to help tighten up this script. And boy, have they found themselves a winner in this one. Let's go ahead and bring this up here. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Beau Willimon has in fact been brought on to co-write James Mangold's movie. This is in fact an exclusive. This is the feature will delve into the origins of the Force. It says Beau Willimon. Why is this doing this to me right now? Beau Willimon is going from House of Cards to House of Jedi. The playwright and screenwriter has been tapped to work the script for Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi that is being directed by James Mangold. Oh, can I bring this up here a little bigger? Yeah, there we go. Willimon is joining Mangold to write the script for the project that will trace the origins of the Force to be set 25,000 years before any of the timelines and stories told by the movies and shows so far. So this is really giving Lucasfilm the opportunity to explore an entirely brand new world here. I mean, 25,000 years, the idea of what we have in Luke Skywalker, what we have in Anakin Skywalker, is not even a blip on history's mind at this point. That's how far back we're certainly going. The origin of the Force to be set 25,000 years before any of the timelines and story told by the movies. Dawn of the Jedi, which is a working title, was first unveiled almost exactly 1 year ago at Star Wars Celebration, which was held in London, April 2023. This is what Mangold said. He says, when I first started talking to Kathleen Kennedy about doing one of these pictures, what occurred to me was thinking about what kind of genre of a movie within Star Wars I wanted to do. And I thought about a biblical epic, like a 10 Commandments about the dawning of the Force. Where did the Force come from? When did we discover it? When did we learn how to use it? The project, like most Star Wars initiatives, have been under a Sith shroud for secrecy ever since. The feature has no release date, but Mangold is expected to turn his attention to Dawn of the Jedi after he wraps A Complete Unknown. His Bob Dylan biopic that stars Timothée Chalamet is being made by Disney. So it looks like that's going to be his next project after he finishes up with this film. It says Dawn of the Jedi is not Beau Willimon's first time in hyperspace. The scribe worked on one season of Andor, the acclaimed and Emmy-nominated Star Wars series focused on the character played by Diego Luna. Willimon wrote 3 episodes, including the prison breakout installment titled One Way Out. The episode earned Willimon an Emmy nomination for an outstanding writing for a drama series and featured the heartbreaking line by Andy Serkis, I can't swim, which was absolutely heartbreaking. After all the hard work that they did to go ahead and escape that prison, only to realize you got to swim to get to safety. Yeah, it was pretty heartbreaking for his character. The writer is known for his dramatic prowess, and his work features political undertones and deals with the themes of power. House of Cards was set in the halls of Washington, D.C., is one of the most acclaimed series in the mid 2010s. I mean, House of Cards was unbelievable. And the fact that Bo Willimon was attached to that for like 70 plus episodes. I mean, he definitely was a huge part of the writing team and the success of House of Cards. Helped put Netflix on the map as a destination for original television series. He also went ahead and co-wrote George Clooney's and Ryan Gosling's political thriller, The Ides of March, and created Hulu's space drama, The First. So they are bringing in a heavy hitter who has been attached to some really great material, The Ides of March, House of Cards, and already kind of dipping his toe in the world of Star Wars with teaming up with Tony Gilroy to go ahead and bring us a couple of episodes of Andor, which I was a huge fan of. It felt very much like grown-up Star Wars, if you will. I mean, the dialogue was dense. The storytelling in and of itself was super impactful. I absolutely had a blast with Andor. I know Andor probably has its detractors, maybe saying it was a little bit too slow, but for me, it was drama filled. It had some great thriller moments in there, some great outer space sequences too, which really worked for me, and some of the best characters that I had really ever seen kind of brought to life in here. And so I'm a really big fan of Bo Willimon. I think when you talk about the concept of like a biblical epic that James Mangold certainly wants to go ahead and tackle. The idea of where did the Force come from? I think you also then have to put in undertones of like, do people view the concept of the Force? Like, will there be people that just become zealots or like parts of like cults? Who is the first person to kind of be able to tap into that Force? The idea of the concept of belief and seeing something that you can't necessarily see that surrounds you, sort of thing, tapping into that 25,000 years ago. Like, there is an element of like the disbelief and having to put your belief in something that you can't see that I think is really powerful. And I think when you get people like James Mangold and Bo Willimon to tap into a concept like that, based off of what they've written in the past, I think you might be onto something really, really great here. I also do want to highlight, for those of you who want to see just what Bo Willimon is certainly capable of, I found a great scene on Facebook from an Andor episode. It's performed by the incredible actor Stellan Skarsgård, who is playing really the head of sort of like this rebel, um, who's really playing the head of like this rebel group here. Um, and he's got to do a lot of heavy lifting here behind the scenes, right? He has to kind of play sort of both sides of the coin, to hide what he's truly doing as a rebel, but also trying to stay off the Empire's radar. So he's very much living sort of this double life, and he has to then sort of assign people tasks and missions to do, and really putting other people sort of in harm's way to do a lot of the difficult tasks, if you will, as he sort of helps pull the strings for the rebels, sort of very much behind the scenes. And I saw this great clip on Facebook that I wanted to go ahead and share with you guys, because I always think it's important. Like when we have these names drop of like directors and writers and stuff, I always think it's important to highlight like what they've done in the past, what they've managed to bring to, just from a writing and a directing sort of standpoint. What can they add to a new movie that they're kind of now being attached? And I want you guys to keep in mind, Bo Willimon wrote this episode, or at least he wind up writing the dialogue for him. And the scene that we're about to get into, this is Stellan Skarsgård character Luthen. Um, he has a mission. He's trying to get out a warning, but the person that he's asking to do this is now having cold feet, right? The person here recognizes the idea that, like, if I get caught, if other people get caught, this is all going to be a bust and my life is ruined. And so he's really having cold feet at this point. And he asks the question to Luthen because he's the one that's having to do this job, right? This character that you're going to see at the very beginning, he's the one that Luthen is giving instructions to. And he feels like all the weight of the world is on his shoulders. He is sacrificing so much. And he looks at Luthen and he asks him the question, what are you sacrificing? And this is Luthen's response. I don't believe I shared the audio on this. Let me go ahead and bring this back here. Share audio. Here we go.
You sacrifice.
Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, they set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost. And by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything!
Yeah, man. He sacrifices everything. I love the line in here where he says, like, the ego that I had when I even began this whole thing is not even going to be around to kind of like enjoy the possibilities of like what I've even set up and established, right? Like he's really doing this in like this very unselfish manner. The idea that he sees the much bigger picture than just him. And the fact that he's not only sacrificed his own life, but the lives of others in order for this rebellion to even have some sort of level of a chance, that his own human decency and some of the tough decisions that he's certainly had to make. I'm sure that the people he's had to sacrifice, the people he's had to turn his back on in order to kind of keep himself safe in this rebellion, to keep sort of moving forward, sort of thing. And so, the idea of this guy feeling like, I'm the one doing all the work here, but what have you certainly sacrificed? This guy clearly not seeing the bigger picture of what Luthen has had to have done, certainly behind the scenes, in order just to keep this rebellion and this dream certainly afloat. And you just realize, you just get the opportunity to see like just what the years have put on this man and the emotional turmoil that he deals with on a daily basis, and the sacrifices that he certainly has had to make. And I just thought it was just extremely compelling and just extremely riveting sort of levels of storytelling here. So when you tell me, the idea that you're bringing in this guy Beau Willimon to go ahead and co-write a Star Wars movie, and you're bringing that level of dialogue with you, and understanding of the Star Wars world. And again, this is taking place 25,000 years. This is very much sort of uncharted territory for Lucasfilm. But to bring in somebody with that sort of mentality when it comes to writing, I think is honestly just a really huge win for Dawn of the Jedi. So my level of intrigue for this series just honestly shot up through the roof with this huge announcement. And I honestly don't think that they probably could have done a better job of bringing anybody else in, man. So I'm really pumped. Again, if you guys have not checked out Andor, I highly recommend that you do yourselves a favor. I think you're robbing yourself if you haven't watched Andor. Some people might complain certainly about the pacing, but I definitely do think that there are some episodes that the pacing is unbelievable. Like, because there are elements of like missions that these characters have to certainly go on, and you don't know whether or not they're gonna survive them or not. And I think there are two really big aspects of here in this season that I think does that. I think they have like two big missions that I think especially when you get to those episodes, it's pretty riveting. So I'm really looking forward to this, guys. But look, let me know your thoughts. What do you think about Beau Willimon joining the Dawn of the Jedi movie himself as a co-writer? Do you think he's going to bring a great new fresh take to Star Wars? Have you seen any of his past work? And just let me know about your thoughts about the idea of Lucasfilm tackling a concept of Star Wars 25,000 years into the future. If anything, for me, I think it's just the cool concept of a new sandbox that they have yet to have the opportunity to truly kind of play in. Not really having sort of any constraints to kind of what came or what came before or after sort of mentality. You're not really diving into utilizing characters that that we've been able to get emotionally attached to, right? And have sort of preconceived notions and ideas about who these characters are and what direction that they could possibly go into. This is really allowing Lucasfilm a really fresh sort of start. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated with both Dawn of the Jedi and even a little bit of the Rey Skywalker stuff, because we are delving into brand new eras and can really tap into something fresh and new here. So best of luck to Dawn of the Jedi, man. But I think if you're looking for great pillars to start a series of movies off of, I think James Mangold and Beau Willimon are as good as it gets. So yeah, guys, let me know some of your thoughts in the comment section box below. Let's see here. Marcelino says, I'm mixed on the idea of the first Jedi. I like it better where there's no concrete answer and it's just left to audience's interpretation. Showing what happened takes away from the mystery. I can understand that to a certain extent. I honestly don't know if we'll get a concrete answer as to what the Force is. I mean, I would almost argue that George Lucas himself kind of already ruined that for some people when it comes to the Phantom Menace and really introducing the concept of midichlorians and sort of making it more a scientific sort of thing, right? Like the higher your midichlorian count, the more powerful that you are, right? It almost kind of adds more scientific aspect to it and kind of really undercuts a little bit of the mysticism, right? So I do think George Lucas kind of already undercut himself a little bit with the explaining of it in the Phantom Menace. But when he talks about the idea of making it like biblical, I don't think, God, it's been forever since I've watched the 10 Commandments, right? But like, we don't necessarily see God in it, right? Like, it's still the idea of like people having to deliver message based off of the idea of believing in something that you necessarily can't see. So, the idea of there being like the first Force user that discovers it, I don't necessarily know if he even necessarily knows where that power comes from, right? I think the fact that it might be turned into biblical terms, I think would add to the mysticism and the believing in something that you can't see. And maybe, maybe this first guy that we see believes himself to kind of be, this prophet, passing along a message of something that's a bigger, higher, that's a higher power, right? Again, when you're tapping into something 25,000 years ago, I gotta think that the thought process of what the Force was significantly different than what we even know of it now, or interpret it as in something as early as the prequel trilogy. Um, and so I would be fascinated to see like what the ideas and the concept of the Force first officially began, or was there a pushback against it? Was it like did you have a group of people that like were disbelievers, and pushed back on the idea that they think it was like, I don't want to say like a devil worship, but something like super negative. The idea of introducing the idea of abilities that maybe people didn't have thousands of years ago. I think there's a really fresh kind of take on it that would allow for us to still not have concrete evidence or concrete answers and understanding about it, because of the idea that's being utilized sort of in that 10 commandments biblical aspect. So again, I wouldn't be so set on the idea that it's going to ruin the Force. I think if anything, it probably will add to the mysticism that maybe some people felt were lost when you get into something like the prequels. But that's what I'm hoping for, at least. That's one of the things that I'm hoping for. But all right, guys, and with that out of the way, we are going to change course here and dive into some MCU and DCU news for you guys. Because this week, look, man, Marvel Studios shook the internet here with the reveal of the Silver Surfer. It looks like, I believe it was Deadline that actually reported this news here. We had gotten an official announcement about the Fantastic Four cast from Disney back on Valentine's Day, if I'm not mistaken. They wind up revealing to us the cast very much in sort of like an animated form, like a 1960s sort of propaganda like pamphlet, but for Valentine's Day, get an opportunity to really see these characters in very retro design sort of surroundings and even suits themselves. This was in fact an official announcement from Disney. But ever since then, we really did not get sort of any news surrounding this, besides maybe some articles that maybe teased the idea that the Fantastic Four movie was going to take place in an alternate universe, saying that the Fantastic Four themselves was going to be placed sort of like in the 60s. So you get the idea that this is going to be taking like a period piece, if you will. So they are playing around with the idea possibly of this being in an alternate universe. But outside of that, we haven't really gotten anything official until this week that actually comes from Deadline and their sources that'll let us know that, look, we are getting ourselves a Silver Surfer in this film. It just may not necessarily be the Silver Surfer that a lot of people were certainly expecting in here. If they were expecting their traditional Norrin Rad Silver Surfer, that's not necessarily the case, as it does feel like the MCU is continuing to play up this multiversal saga. And if the Fantastic Four is going to be in an alternate reality, it looks as though the opportunity for an alternate reality Silver Surfer has in fact presented itself. And it looks like, according to Deadline, according to their sources, the Fantastic Four has in fact picked up Julia Garner as she joins the Marvel Studios movie as shalla-bal version of Silver Surfer. Now, I know there's not a lot of people that really know about the shalla-bal character. I will go ahead and pull up an image of her in the comic so you guys can see here. But this is, in fact, our Norrin Rad Silver Surfer and shalla-bal Silver Surfer really as twin heralds for a Galactus in the Earth X multiverse, or the Earth X alternate universe. But let's go ahead and dive into this. It does say here, this is an exclusive. With the 4 actors set to play the iconic members of the super team, Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four now has its eyes set on who will play Silver Surfer, and it looks like they are going with one of the town's biggest rising stars. And this is where they let us know about who's going to be in it. It says, sources tell Deadline that Emmy winner Julia Garner is set to play the iconic comic book character in the Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four. WandaVision helmer Matt Shackman is directing the Fantastic Four off of a script by Josh Friedman, Jeff Kaplan, Eric Pearson, and Ian Springer. The production will begin this summer, so they do plan on getting in front of the cameras relatively soon here. Marvel Studios had no comment. While plot details for this film are unknown, sources say Garner will play shalla-bal, a version of Silver Surfer from the comics. Garner's star has been on the rise ever since she won her first of 3 Emmys for playing Ruth on the Netflix crime drama Ozark. She also landed an Emmy nominee for her portrayal of Anna Delvey on a limited series, Inventing Anna. So it looks like Julia Garner, most notably known for her time in Ozark, is in fact going to be our Silver Surfer in here. First off, I am kind of curious if anybody has had the opportunity to see or watch Ozark here. I personally have not watched it, but I'll be damned if I didn't hear people talking about it all over the internet each and every week when it was airing. Ozark definitely has its fan base for sure. And for the seasons that it did have, it certainly grabbed people's attention and was constantly being nominated from some level of Emmy. So it was a great series. So I want to give Julia Garner her shine here for a minute, because I think sometimes, we have preconceived notions of what it is that we personally want to see in our movies. And I think sometimes we tend to neglect maybe some of the casting choices for some of these roles. But I think it does need to be said here for Julia Garner. She's won 3 Emmys, not just nominated. I think she's been nominated 4 times, but she's won 3 Emmys. She's a powerful actress that has definitely been recognized for a lot of her incredible work. And I think if people have seen Ozark before, they'll probably be able to vouch for Julia Garner. I've only literally seen one clip that I saw of her on Twitter that was circulating, but damn if her performance wasn't powerful. I'm really eager to kind of see not only what the script asks of her, but how she's going to deliver it as somebody that is, in fact, the herald of Galactus. If you are working for a world eater here, there's got to be some level of gravitas that she's going to bring to the role, even if she is going to be in all like cosmic power titanium in this particular film, playing this alien, if you will. So Julia Garner, I think if you're looking at this from an acting perspective, hell of a pickup by Marvel here to put her already on the cast with some heavy hitters. I mean, we're talking Pedro Pascal here, who's almost great in almost anything that he touches. Vanessa Kirby, who's no slouch herself. If you've seen her in The Crown, she was remarkable in that series. Joseph Quinn really coming off of a star-studded performance in Stranger Things that really allowed him to propel himself into sort of stardom and becoming a heartthrob for girls and women all over the world, sort of thing. I'm not too familiar with the gentleman that's going to be playing the Thing, but in some of the things that I have seen him in, I mean, being able to tap into the idea of somebody who's turned into a monster and having to deal with that interpersonal struggle of wanting to just be yourself again, sort of thing. I think he could probably embody that role incredibly well. And now you're going to tell me you're getting Julia Garner, a 3-time Emmy winner, to go ahead and play Silver Surfer? Yes, please. I think the talent is certainly undeniable, and one that I'm really looking forward to kind of see what she's going to bring to the forefront here. Now, for those of you who don't know, she is playing a character by the name of shalla-bal. Now, shalla-bal in the Marvel comics is in fact the lover of Silver Surfer, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in the comic book, she does die, if I'm not mistaken. And so, this is how people normally know shalla-bal as. But because of the fact that this movie is supposedly taking place in an alternate universe, there is a version of this particular character that, again, does in fact become the Silver Surfer herself. This is Earth 9997, also known as Earth X, as she did appear in a very limited series for Marvel Comics. So they are tapping into their deep history here in Marvel Comics. So just to get the awkwardness out of the way, you know, when this was announced, you definitely have people rolling their eyes already. I've already heard people talk about the idea of this being a gender swap. This is not a gender swap. I know that some people tend to be triggered when it comes to the MCU these days based off of some of their past decisions. Some of them I haven't really cared for. Some of them I don't really, certainly don't mind myself. But to be clear, again, this is not a gender swap. This is just the MCU deciding to go ahead and utilize a character that they have established in their comic books. But again, the fact that we are delving into an alternate universe, this does open the idea for them to be able to use an alternate Silver Surfer. So I do believe very much so that in our present MCU, our present universe, which I believe is probably the 616 Earth for Marvel, there probably very much is a Norrin Rad Silver Surfer out there somewhere. So the idea of like not being able to see our Silver Surfer that we're most notably known to have in regards to like the most popular version of the character, I still very much believe that there is a possibility that Norrin Rad certainly will in fact pop up here. Maybe not necessarily in this Fantastic Four movie, but I do think in a potential future one, because there are rumblings that this Fantastic Four movie may help then lead into the upcoming Secret Wars film. And then maybe if we get like ourselves a Fantastic Four 2 and 3, those certainly might be placed in our current day MCU. So I want to take a step back for a second and really concentrate on just the concept of what the story is asking for here, because I do think that there is a really great potential to eventually lead into our Norrin Rad Silver Surfer, because based off of our Norrin Rad Silver Surfer, he misses shalla-bal, right? The loss of his love sits with him, and it's a very heavy weight that he carries with him. There's a part of me that really digs the idea that we're going to give shalla-bal some shine here, getting the opportunity to see what shalla-bal potentially could have been in another alternate universe. Because for me, if you're allowing this version of the character to then interact with a Sue Storm and a Reed Richards, right, and knowing the shalla-bal Silver Surfer, what would that be like then? And again, this is just speculation on my part. What would that be like then for Reed Richards and Stu Storm with that knowledge to then meet another Silver Surfer in our universe? I think something as subtle as a name drop to the MCU Silver Surfer and Norrin Rad, like, we met a Silver Surfer once before. Her name was shalla-bal. Do you know what impact that would have on our Norrin Rad Silver Surfer? How, like, if there was any animosity maybe between Norrin Rad and our Fantastic Four, like what that would do to his mindset of knowing that these group of people in Reed Richards and Sue Storm have met his love before, have met somebody that knows of this person, and in that universe is maybe very much alive and well and doing great things with this cosmic power and entity. If you're trying to get Norrin Rad on your side, I think that's a huge name drop and a really great sort of emotional arc and development for maybe a potential Silver Surfer in the future for us in the MCU. So I think there are potential ideas that can really come out of having a shalla-bal Silver Surfer that would do wonders, even more for our popular Silver Surfer and Norrin Rad, if we ever get to that. Again, that's just speculation on my part, but I think if we take a step back and see like the directions in which a move like this can certainly come from, I think is a big win, honestly. I will also say this, and I said this when I broke down this news originally too. There were some people that when this news was announced, immediately was upset with this decision. Some people for good reason, because they most notably know their Silver Surfer to be Norrin Radd. Some people are legit fans of Norrin Radd. And the idea of feeling like that opportunity to have that version of the Silver Surfer taken away from you is disappointing. And in that regards, I totally understand that, because they're coming from a mindset of like, this was the Silver Surfer that was established. I personally was a fan, so I'm kind of bummed about it. But make no mistake, there's also another side of fandom. And again, I'm not saying this is all fandom, but there is a portion of the fandom that immediately saw this casting, a female Silver Surfer, and thought this movie's going to flop. Like this movie's going to be, is just going to bomb at the box office. Nobody's going to want to see this movie because of the fact that we were in fact dealing with a female Silver Surfer. And I have no problem, again, if you are disappointed in this particular news because you are a legit fan of the Norrin Radd Silver Surfer, right? You come from it from a comic book sort of storytelling perspective that MCU undermined that concept of that actually happening for you guys. I can truly understand that level of disappointment for sure. But there are people that immediately look at this as a female Silver Surfer and just think this movie's going to bomb automatically. And my pushback to that is simply the fact of, a movie is going to live or die by how good a script is. It doesn't matter what gender, it doesn't matter what sex your lead character is. If your story is not there, your movie's not going to be there. People are not going to come out to see the movie. So script is everything. And it shouldn't matter if the Fantastic Four Silver Surfer is a female or if it's a male. It's really going to come down to the idea of the script. And I would like to also preface that with the idea that we have had a male Silver Surfer once in this little gem of a movie, in Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. And we had a male Silver Surfer at one point in time. And guess what? The idea of there being a male Silver Surfer could not save this movie at all. At the end of the day, it comes down to a script. And look, some people will say, oh, you got to watch this movie 3 or 4 times to truly appreciate it. No, you don't. And maybe some people eventually went on to like this movie. Maybe some people eventually will try and rewrite history like this was a great Fantastic Four movie. No, look at the critic ratings. Look at the audience score. Majority of people did not like this movie. It wasn't a huge box office success. So again, it doesn't matter if there's a male Silver Surfer or a female Silver Surfer. The only thing that's going to allow a movie to be successful is the script and what you do with your characters and the levels of storytelling, because a male Silver Surfer had its time and it still didn't do the film justice. So, that's not to say that we can't have another male Silver Surfer. I'm sure we certainly can. And I would not be surprised, again, if an upcoming sequel of Fantastic Four, we do get ourselves a Norrin Radd at some particular point in time. I just cannot stand when people tell me, based off of before even seeing a script, before even getting an opportunity to see a trailer, plot details, that a movie is going to bomb because of an announcement of a female version of a character that you like. Because it doesn't come down to that at the end of the day. And so, yeah, I think we should all remember Rise of the Silver Surfer as a great example of that idea that, it does not matter whatsoever. It's going to live and die by the script that it has. And I will say this too. I think Marcelino sent me a live viewer question this week. I don't know if it was or maybe it was a comment. I think you dropped a comment, Marcelino, if I'm not mistaken, on Comic Storian. He did a video as to why, like, he doesn't have a problem with the announcement or anything, but he pushed back in regards to like how Disney and Marvel Studios sort of like announced this. The idea of similar to what they kind of did with like Star Wars, right? In the sense of like these casting announcements came out and you knew it was gonna like upset fans and whatnot. Like you could have at least like dropped a plot summary, right? Or Yeah, you could have dropped like a plot summary about what the movie was going to be like, to clarify for people like, hey, this is going to be taking place in an alternate universe in the 60s, sort of thing, like something concrete from Marvel to then maybe persuade people to not be so trigger happy about the idea, right? Like if you had accommodated this news release with a plot summary, maybe it would have been an easier kind of pill to swallow. And and for pushback, I would just simply say I don't believe this was an official announcement from Disney. Deadline says their sources tell Deadline. So people that are on the inside are kind of leaking this information. I don't even necessarily know if Disney was ready for this information to certainly have even been dropped, let alone provide a plot summary. And so I'm not going to crap on Disney in that regards because I do think had Disney made an official announcement, very much like they made an official announcement of the official cast, right? We had a lot of people that were guessing and sources telling us who the cast was going to be. But it was really Marvel that gave us the official announcement on Valentine's Day. This does not feel like it was an official announcement from Disney. This felt very much like the inside sources wind up leaking this particular information and they ran with this particular story before Disney was even ready to go ahead and let people know about this particular casting. So in that regards, I would definitely disagree with him there. But there are elements that I do think probably would help Marvel. Like if you know that this information does leak and get out ahead of you, then maybe have a plot summary ready. But I also would almost push back in that regards to just simply say, well, I think Marvel probably didn't do them any favors by not releasing a plot summary. I just don't think you need to. I think Marvel Studios needs to just go at their own pace in regards to what they are ready to tell people. They haven't even started filming this movie yet, or at least they might have just started here this month or later this summer. So my thing would just be they shouldn't have to. And I say that because us as viewers and people that digest this stuff, I would hope, and again, maybe we just don't live in that world anymore. I would hope that we would give things the benefit of the doubt. I would hope that we wouldn't be immediately that triggered to where it would an announcement like this would immediately cause some level of upheaval. And I think this speaks more to us as moviegoers than I think it speaks to the Disney studio in and of itself. Hoping the idea that we are adults enough in this room to give these creators the opportunity to tell the story that they certainly need to tell without crapping on something that we haven't even seen yet. And if that means like they have to put out a plot summary to satisfy an outlet of fans that feel some type of way about a woman being in this particular role, then I think that's Disney pandering very much to a very vocal minority of people out there. And I think us as fans maybe need to be a little bit better about how we receive information when we don't even know the direction of the story, when we don't even know what these characters look like yet. We don't even know what their character arcs are going to be like yet. We literally know nothing. But I just think we should learn to be a little bit more open-minded and allow these creators to cook. Now, again, you can be upset about the direction that the Marvel Studios has gone lately when it comes to maybe their level of storytelling not being up to par. Like Disney can take Secret Invasion back all they want to. Like I don't need that. It was trash. I absolutely could not stand it. Right? So I get the idea of worry and concern, but I think the concern of that people might have about this being a female version of their favorite character being triggered that easily, I just don't think Marvel Studios needs to necessarily do that, because I think us as a society should be better about handling this type of stuff. And I think the movie will certainly speak for itself. And I think that's what Marvel Studios is certainly focusing on. So, you know, comic story, and there are some aspects I can kind of agree with him. I think when you do have a pushback like this, maybe Marvel Studios should come out and say something just to kind of clarify some things. But I would also say I don't think they need to. I don't think they need to. Because I think at the end of the day, I think should be us as the moviegoer that should be more open minded. But that's just my perspective on that. But I'm kind of curious to know what you guys think. Well, I will one talking about the past story here. Midichlorians have been back since Clone Wars series. Yeah, they definitely were introduced then. Marcelino says some people's problem with shalla-bal's character is she's such a Z-lister like El Muerto, and I mean that's a possibility. But look, I'm also not going to give. I'm also not going to. First off, I just think shalla-bal and El Muerto shouldn't even be in the same conversation. And I'll only say that just because, one, I wouldn't have even trusted Sony to even do that movie correctly. So I'm glad Sony has dropped that sort of thing. But I do think it's an opportunity here where, you know, again, you are dealing with the multiverse. You know, you are possibly dealing with an alternate reality in that sense. And even though it certainly might be a Z-lister, it doesn't mean that you're incapable of making a Z-lister matter. You know, I think we've seen maybe not Marvel take Z-list people so much, but B-listers, C-listers, and wind up turning them kind of into fan favorites. So again, you know, maybe I can understand the complaint of utilizing a very unknown character, but you know, maybe they're using it for a very good reason here. Nathan says an alternate universe is a way better way to tell a Fantastic Four story. I'm fascinated by that. Like I truly am fascinated by that because we have had no mention of the Fantastic Four in our MCU at all. The concept of superheroes having been popular during the 60s and then maybe fell off or vanished sort of out of nowhere, I think is pretty eye-opening. It has like very much like Planet of the Apes vibes to me a little bit, in the sense of like these astronauts go into space sort of thing and get lost in the cosmos, and then when they return to like an alternate sort of reality or alternate world that's not their own. There's a concept behind it that I kind of dig. But it seems like, if anything, maybe the majority of the movie might certainly take place during the 60s. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? Coming through with the super chat. Thank you so much, Blossom, for always supporting this channel this way. Just so you guys know, we don't really have like any sponsors here or anything like that. We really are kind of very heavily supported by you viewers. So any monetary assistance for the channel to help us grow certainly will help. We're actually, you know, we used to perform in 720 on StreamYard. Now we're pushing 1080 on StreamYard, which is really helpful for us because we're able to afford it thanks to your guys' continued support. Adding more and more equipment. We're probably going to be going to more conventions this year. So we definitely appreciate any monetary help that you certainly can. And again, even if you can't help out that way, liking the channel, subscribing, sharing these videos, all that really goes a long way. Marcelino says, to some people, gender swapping is also when a mantle of a character is passed from one to another. It comes as lazy and pandering because they're not creating a new character from scratch with zero attachments. No, then they're simply just like morphing the concept of gender swapping to fit something to fit their own arguments. No, gender swapping is the idea of having the same character that was once male and you're changing that same character now into a female. That's gender swapping. So the morph it into, oh, well, you know, they're kind of linked and attached to each other. And so the fact that you didn't go to the male, no, they're their own characters. They have their own story. It is in fact established lore. I don't fit that one. It's just another way for them to get around their argument. That's all. The MCU complaints. Yeah, unfortunately, there's always going to be one. Will I am. I will one. I'm sorry. Will I am. When's your next single drop, man? Let me know. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? What's wrong with the Silver Surfer being a girl anyway? I'm used to him being a male, but I can get used to that. Yeah, unfortunately, Blossom, just not everybody's comfortable with it. It's a little bit of a shame, man, honestly. And look, I'm gonna be honest. Like when I saw this news, I was like, Marvel's being slick. Marvel's being slick because I think they immediately knew this idea was gonna like the pushback was gonna happen. But I almost feel like this very much renders, like, I think this very much undercuts sort of the gender swapping complaints and people that have issues with the female version of a superhero, right? Like, because people always complained about the gender swapping idea. And this is Marvel, like, look, I know y'all want to call this gender swapping, but it's not, like really getting sort of ahead of the complaints a little bit. But again, I do recognize and understand those that have legitimate complaints and concerns in the sense of, man, I'm a big fan of Norrin Rad Silver Surfer. I really wanted to see my boy in a Surfer movie, and I'm not getting him because I do feel like those people that are upset are very much open-minded to the idea of like, well, we'll see what shalla-bal can certainly do, right? Like I'll see, but I am a little bit bummed and disappointed by it. So I do think that those people are certainly coming across at it with an open mind, despite them certainly being disappointed. And for those people, I would certainly say hold that chin up because I do think that there's a possibility that we do get our Silver Surfer Norrin Rad at some point in time once the Fantastic Four does in fact get into the MCU themselves. He says, I tried talking to someone where anyone who complains and has ill intentions have lost all credibility for me, pushed back against. If you want to see the full picture, I recommend looking into the comment section of the video Commisstorian made to get the full picture. Yeah, I mean, I didn't bother to look at his at his comment section because I'm sure it would have been flooded. I would agree with you, Marcel, and I do wish Indy and Stuart were here to get their perspective on the comic historian video. I mean, I am glad at the direction in which he tackled the this news. He seems like he's a pretty open-minded dude, and I appreciate him wanting MCU or Disney to better prepare their actors and actresses for potential pushback, or at least doing some part of tampering down the noise. And so there's a part of me that believes, like, yes, when this news leaked, again, even though I don't believe this is a Disney official release, had it been released and Disney heard about it, maybe then issuing a statement like, Fantastic Four is taking place in an alternate reality sort of thing. We've got ourselves a really great cast, a powerful actress that's going to perform this role of shalla-bal sort of thing. Getting ahead of it, I do think might have tampered down some of that noise. But if he's under the impression that there would just be no more pushback, I do think he's fooling himself because I just think that just regardless, and again, this is to the same folks that regardless of you mentioning to them, this is not a case of gender swapping whatsoever. This is an established character. He may not be well known, but it does have its comic book lore. Those people are still going to have issues with it, regardless of the explanation that you give, which is one of the reasons why I say I get where he's coming from, but I don't think Disney and Marvel Studios has I don't think it's their job to do that. I think their job is to focus on making entertaining stories that are powerful and impactful and tell a great story, because that in turn, that will in fact boost up your characters, but they shouldn't be the ones to have to put out disclaimers. We as a society of people should be okay with the idea of acceptance and being open-minded, that again, we don't know what the plot is, we don't know what the story is, we don't know the impact that these characters are going to have, we haven't seen a trailer, we haven't seen a first look image or anything like that. Just solely off the news of a female playing the Silver Surfer, I think that speaks more to society and how us as viewers, how we should handle ourselves. And I don't think that's the job of Disney or Marvel Studios to have to address. I think us as fans should be the ones to address it and handle that type of news much better than what I think a small vocal minority of people are handling the news. Because again, and I mentioned this before, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your sex of what the character is. That does not make or break a film. At the end of the day, the script is going to survive and really boost this film. And if people want to see it, let people see it. And I think if people see the film and it's a great film, trust me, word of mouth will get around and people will go out and see this movie. Because if people want to complain or say, you know, the idea of this being a female Silver Surfer, this is going to be an immediate flop. You know what? We had a male Silver Surfer, and that movie was a flop too. So it doesn't matter the gender whatsoever. Just let them tell their story that they want to tell and judge it based off of how good the story is. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. But again, just to be that quick of making a judgment of something you haven't seen, again, I don't think Marvel or Disney should address that. I think that we should just be better. We should do better. That's all. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts in regards to the Fantastic Four casting the Silver Surfer again, and a powerful Emmy winner in Julia Garner that has laid a great foundation for herself in an Ozark series. And again, I think if you have seen Ozark, you're probably very familiar with Julia Garner, and that alone should get you excited for the potential, at least, as to what she can certainly bring to this particular role. So I'm looking forward to it. Last but not least, guys, we're going to wrap up with our last topic here as we dive into the world of the DCU. And James Gunn keeps cooking, y'all. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do when it comes to Superman. I was going to say it, Superman Legacy, formerly known as Superman Legacy, now just known as Superman. Filming has, in fact, begun. I think James Gunn recently mentioned they're probably like maybe 1/4 of filming, not even that. Maybe he's at like 13 or 15% of filming this movie. So he certainly still has a long way to go when it comes to filming. But the foundation of the rest of the DCU around him certainly continues to build. A couple weeks ago, we wind up hearing words of Anna Noguera, the writer of Supergirl. She was going to be possibly taking on doing a Titans movie. We knew who the writer for the upcoming Supergirl movie was certainly going to be, but we did not know who the director was certainly going to be. I think they had some names maybe floating around the internet, like a Kate Herron who did the Loki series. I think even Bryce Dallas Howard name might have been floating around there about a potential for a director. So it was actually pretty fascinating this week when we wind up getting an announcement. And again, I always want to say we should probably run things past James Gunn first. I don't necessarily know if James Gunn has, in fact, confirmed this yet. I think he even on Thread said, look, unless it comes directly from me, it's certainly still a rumor. So I do want to take that into account. But if you guys have seen James Gunn directly talk about the potential director for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, let me know, because it looks like Deadline is certainly getting ahead of it here as they bring word that Chris Gillespie is currently in talks to direct Supergirl for DC Studios. Now, the fact that he's in talks, we have seen the concepts of in talks before. Usually that means that there's been an idea pitch. They've sat down with each other. They're in the process of negotiations, but negotiations at any particular point in time can certainly fall through. So it's not always a given when they're in talks, but it just means that they are going into the path of actually landing this and signing on the dotted line. So I do think that's important to understand before we get into this article here. But Craig Gillespie, in talks to possibly direct. Let's go ahead and get into this article here, though. Exclusive. This says Cruella And the I, Tanya filmmaker, Craig Gillespie, is in talks to direct Supergirl for Warner Brothers Studio. We can tell you first. The plan is for DC to shoot the movie for Q4, so by the end of this year, after they've completed James Gunn's Superman, which is shooting in Georgia for a July 11, 2025 theatrical release. DC boss Gunn and Peter Safran are producing. It says, as we previously reported, House of Dragons' Millie Alcock won the role of Supergirl, and she will appear in another DC project before making her big screen debut as the Angel of the Sky. So, as of right now, I do believe that they're under the impression that Supergirl may, in fact, pop up in, say, this Superman movie beforehand. That's just a rumor. Again, they have not confirmed that whatsoever. It does go on to say here, Gunn said that his studio, it says Gillespie has a specialty when delivering female-driven projects. I, Tanya, scored an Oscar win for Allison Janney as Best Supporting Actress and also notched a total of 3 Oscar nominations, including for Margot Robbie in the Best Actress category. So Gillespie has done big things when it comes to his female-driven projects. His Cruella, a solo spinoff starring Emma Stone, was a big pandemic and box office hit combined, grossing more than $233 million worldwide. The movie went on to win an Oscar for costume design. And I also will point out, for those of you who don't know, Craig Gillespie also went ahead and wrote or directed the film Dumb Money, which I heard great things about. I believe that's like the movie about the GameStop stock. Had some really great names attached to it. But while I personally didn't get the opportunity to see Dumb Money, I heard great things from people that had the opportunity to certainly check it out. I don't think it did a lot of money at the box office, but I think critics and audiences that did see Dumb Money really appreciated it and really had a good time. So Greg Gillespie's got 3 bangers under his belt in I, Tanya, Dumb Money, and Cruella, which some people would probably say that movie had no business of being as good as it was. But the people that have seen Cruella, I think, were fans of it. It says Anna Nogueira adapted the comic book for the big screen. So again, Anna Nogueira is the writer here. And it says Craig Gillespie could in fact be the director on it. Gunn said as a DC studio presser earlier last year that their Supergirl, we will see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, who was raised on a rock, a chip off Krypton, and watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life, and then came to Earth when she was a little girl. She's much more hardcore. She's not exactly the Supergirl we are used to seeing. And if anybody wants to get an idea as to a better idea of what this movie is going to be like, if you want to get an upper hand on it, definitely go ahead and check out the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow series. I believe you can probably find, well, I'm assuming it's probably back in stock. It sold out relatively quickly when James Gunn mentioned it. But anybody that I've heard that has read it has been a really big fan of that story. And that's where they're going to be adapting into the movie. So I think this is a really big win. I immediately heard some pushback from people in a sense of like, this should be directed by a woman. And my pushback would be like, look, it's being written by a woman, Anna Nogueira, I think, especially if you want like the voice and the internal emotions and struggle, I think the voice of Supergirl and the writing should certainly be written by a woman for sure. And I think in that regards, Anna Nogueira certainly fits that role. And I'm really excited in this because for those of you who don't know, Anna Nogueira, she was also tapped by Warner Brothers to do another Supergirl project back during the Flash movie. We were supposed to get a spinoff from the Flash for Sasha Calle's character. and they were really high on that particular script and bringing Sasha Calle's Supergirl to life. But then we wind up having this whole, new concept for DC Studios and stuff. And so the fact that she already wrote a Supergirl project, and now James Gunn clearly must have really loved what she wrote for Sasha Calle and really loved what she wrote for this version of Supergirl too, I think speaks wonders of the type of talent when it comes to writing that I think Anna Nogueira is going to bring to it. So, I don't mind the idea of then having a male director because you do have a female writer that I do think if you are trying to tap into the subtleties of what it means for a woman to be the lead of a movie, I think the writer as a female is the best way to certainly go. And again, sometimes you cannot ignore great talent, and that's what Craig Gillespie is. And I think because of the fact that he has really led great sort of female driven roles in I, Tanya and Cruella, and he's been a fantastic director in regards to that, shows you that he's certainly more than capable of handling a female led role, something like this when it comes to Supergirl. So and then again, go back to Dumb Money, and he's probably got a pretty good other discography behind him. So I think this is another big win for James Gunn. Like I really don't know if I've seen anything announced so far from James Gunn that really has me kind of sort of scratching my head. It just feels like he's really paying attention to the characters that they want to bring to life and the visions that they want to bring to life. And a lot of people's concern was the idea of like, all these movies are just going to feel like James Gunn movies, and so far he's proven that that's not the case, and I think he's smart enough to not allow that to certainly be the case. He may have an overall story arc that he wants to tell, but the fact that he is bringing in a female writer, Craig Gillespie, as a director, who, mind you, both of these probably have two significant different visions, or I should say not visions, but directing styles and writing styles from James Gunn. To me, it just shows James Gunn is really surrounding these films and these characters with creators that fit who that character is and the type of story that certainly deserves to be told there, instead of allowing his own James Gunn isms to kind of be placed all around here, right? Like I think he even has James Mangold set to go ahead and do a Swamp Thing movie also, right? And James Mangold is very much a different director and writer than that of James Gunn. So for me, not that I had an issue with James Gunn being the head of DC Studios, but I'm hoping that people are taking a look at the people that he's surrounding these films with, and hopefully it's tampering down a little bit about their worries about these movies being under James Gunn's DC Studios umbrella. And look, James Gunn has a great history. He knocked the park out. He knocked it out of the park with the Guardians of the Galaxy in the MCU. That movie, probably Guardians 3, is probably the highest grossing movie next to No Way Home, perhaps, in regards to like most recent phase stuff of the MCU that's been highly successful and that people have really enjoyed. Some people I've heard, look, I don't know if I would agree, but I've heard some people say Guardians of the Galaxy 3 being their favorite installment so far. The movie, I think, went on to make like 700 plus or 800 plus $million at the box office. He's got a proven track record with the MCU. I personally enjoyed what he did with the Suicide Squad. It may not have been everybody's cup of tea, but I appreciated it. A Peacemaker was like a revolution for DC television at a particular point in time. And a lot of people really enjoyed Peacemaker also. So I just think James Gunn is very much on a roll. I think you can clearly tell that he cares for these DCU characters. And anytime you see James Gunn in any level of interview, you just see like his knowledge about these characters, how he separates these characters from anything that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has certainly done, and he just truly has a unique vision of how he wants to bring these characters to life. So again, James Gunn, announcement after announcement after announcement that I've seen so far from DC Studios has been a banger, has been really just on point, to where now I was already excited for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, but now you get somebody who's got a great track record like Craig Gillespie on board as a director. Man, combine these writers and directors together, and you got Millie Alcock fresh off of her role in House of the Dragon, which was a great casting choice. Man, I'm so excited for this movie. If I do have any questions, and it's not a negative question, but the question I would have is the release order of these movies. I was very much under the impression when I saw James Gunn make the announcement of chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, for the DCU, that we were going to get a Superman movie. I think after that he announced The Authority, and then they went ahead and announced Green Lantern, and then I think like Paradise Lost, like the Amazonian series. I think it was like a Booster Gold movie or something like that, or maybe that's a series too, right? Brave and the Bold. The way that he announced it, like Supergirl was very much towards the tail end almost of his announcements. So I thought the way he announced it was going to be like the release order, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. He very much is saying, I've heard him saying in threads that they're not going to force anything to happen. It feels like it's going to be a very natural progression. When scripts are done and they're final, then they're going to go ahead and find directors to kind of fit them. Maybe sometimes it might be other ways around, but I think he feels very much, he wants to feel secure in the movie that they're making before they move on to the next position of hiring people and hiring the cast and crew that certainly go along with it. And maybe in time that will mean certain projects get developed a little bit faster than others, because if Supergirl starts going into production come November or December of this year, I gotta think that that's probably like the second film that we're gonna get, maybe the third film. Again, we haven't had any other announcements, so I don't really know how far along some of these other projects are already. But if there is a question I would like to ask James Gunn is, does that order still hold up? Right? Like, can you release Supergirl behind Superman and narratively your story arc kind of making sense? That would be the question, if anything, that I would certainly have for James Gunn. But I'm going to leave it up to him to know exactly what the F he's doing here. So I guess if a project is much further along than others, if you've got everything concrete and you feel really confident about it, I guess there's no point in delaying the inevitable and getting in front of the camera. So we'll see. Supergirl's got a writer. Supergirl now has a director. It clearly has a script intact. Will this movie get in front of the cameras by the end of the year? I'm kind of curious to know what you guys think, but my level of excitement continues to grow here, y'all. James Gunn, they keep releasing news. So if this holds true, according to James Gunn, we always got to run things by him first. If this holds true, I think this is a big win for sure. Let's see here. Marcelino, what you saying? He says the original villain for Wonder Woman of Tomorrow comics works for the story, but is so forgettable, which is why some people want him to be replaced with a more popular Supergirl villain like Rain. Do you agree, or with the right, or do you agree with the right writer? They can make the original villain from the comics, Creme of the Yellow Hills. Yes, that's his name. An interesting character, regardless of his D-list status. I think you could take liberties with storytelling. When you're adapting something from the comics, we've seen this before in the MCU, that not everything is gonna translate to the screen perfectly. I haven't had the opportunity to read Woman of Tomorrow yet. It is on my list. If anything, I probably will maybe see if it's still available on Amazon. Maybe I'll just go ahead and order it and get a quick read out of it. James Gunn likes his D-list characters, If he feels the script is that confident, if he's that confident in the script that he thinks he could bring Creme of the Yellow Hills to life, then yeah. But I can also see it being replaced. You know, it's hard for me to judge because I haven't read the comic book series myself. But I think James Gunn is more than capable of realizing if we want to adapt Woman of Tomorrow, we can take the premise, we can take the premise of that and stay true to the concepts of it, but still work around other scenarios in regards to maybe replacing the villain if they certainly want to. So I think both aspects are still on the table. Maybe when we get ourselves maybe a plot summary or a better idea of what this movie might be about, maybe it'll shed some light on it. But I think James Gunn certainly has the liberties of switching around the villain if he feels like story wise it's not confident or believable enough for that main villain from the series to be good. Because again, not everything translates very well from book to screen. And maybe in that regards, that villain is the situation is in that kind of situation. But again, I haven't read the comic either, because people that have read the comic have really enjoyed it and loved it. And maybe some people wanted to stay true to the comic book adaptation and stay that way. But again, not everything I think can be adapted from book to screen. I Will One says, I still wish Sasha Kaye got a comeback, but looking forward to the new movie since I enjoy the comic run it's based on. Me too, man. Me too. When they announced Anna Nogueira as the writer, there was a part of me that immediately thought, okay, Sasha Kaye is coming back, right? Because I had already heard that they loved what Anna Nogueira already did with that Sasha Kaye Supergirl story. So if anything, maybe they're just taking that over and they'll still allow Sasha to certainly be Supergirl. Because, despite some of the issues that I had with the Flash movie, it definitely didn't surround Sasha Kaye. If anything, I wanted to see a lot more of her as the character. So just a little bit bummed that we're not going to get that opportunity. So very short-lived, if you ask me, but I would love to have seen more of Sasha at the end of the day. But again, I'm not going to sleep on Millie Alcock at all. I think she's going to do a great job for what the role is asking for. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts with Supergirl making progress. It's found its director, possibly, if talks go well. Definitely has already got itself a writer, potentially getting ready to go ahead and film at the end of this year. Does the possible director get you excited? Does everything that you've been hearing so far of this project really fascinate you? Definitely go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. And that will do it for all of our main topics today, y'all. Man, this coffee's still going strong, bro. My girlfriend, she gave me this candle warmer that she's got, and I use it to keep my coffee warm. By the time I used to do this, do these shows, we'd run like 2-3 hours long, and I'd still be sipping on coffee, and my coffee would be all cold and whatnot. But now it's still like I just got it from the shop, man. All right, guys. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into our final segment of the day.
And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And if you ever want to submit a live viewer question, as always, we usually, I'm just going to say it now, we post these on Saturday, y'all. Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, whenever I remember. But definitely on Saturdays, we will drop a post over on our live viewer questions for you guys if you ever want to go ahead and submit one over. How do you submit one over? I'm glad you guys asked. Just go over here to our YouTube channel. Click on that community tab. And voila, you will see a live viewer question post. Feel free to submit any questions that you guys like. If you want to know a little bit more about us as hosts or our own life or movies, television, Marvel, DC, whatever your favorite fandoms are, certainly feel free to go ahead and submit some questions over to us. How many do we have today? We got 5 questions, so not too bad. Let me go ahead and set up the order here. And I'll definitely refresh by the end of answering these questions to make sure that we don't miss anybody's. I will real quick before we get into it. He says, I was hoping we'd see the cut scenes from the Flash's original ending, which has Sasha Calle's Supergirl and Keaton's Batman in the DCU main timeline. That would have been pretty badass. You know, I will say, you know, while I'm not like a big cheerleader for Batman Beyond, I do feel like if there was a time that we were going to get a Batman Beyond, it definitely was due to the Flash movie. Michael Keaton's return as Batman was spectacular, and I really would have loved to have seen him join the main timeline and maybe help establish a Batman Beyond, even if it's like a HBO Max series. I would have loved a trilogy of films. Just him as like a mentor, I think would have been phenomenal. You know, whether or not we can still ever get that I don't know. But even seeing Michael Keaton as something as recent as like the Oscars, you know, where you had Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, you know, play up their roles as the Penguin and Mr. Freeze, and really antagonizing Michael Keaton. Like, can you believe he showed up here, that guy? And, you know, it's freaking Michael Keaton referring to him as Batman. And, you know, Michael Keaton just being the suave and like on his toes guy that he is, just immediately channeling his inner Bruce Wayne and Michael Keaton and like bring it on sort of thing. I mean, damn, how could you not want Michael Keaton back as Batman at least one more time, man? So, you know, I don't know what James Gunn has in store. There's always a possibility of DC Elseworld stuff, right? James Gunn is open to the concept of Elseworld stories, but he very much holds the idea of Elseworld scripts to be on just a whole nother level. You know what I mean? It's got to be top notch to be made. So if there's a top notch Batman Beyond script out there, I would just say don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. Let's one more minute here. Do I have my? I don't think I have my. It's all right. I'm gonna try and put on some music here, y'all. All right. Into some live viewer questions, shall we? Let me know if it's too loud. I need to lower the music. I need to lower the music. Go ahead and let me know. Let's go ahead and dive into this question, y'all. Blossom. Hey guys, what do you think of the newest episode of X-Men 97? Did it take you back to your childhood playing video games or what? Plus, I was kind of surprised about Jubilee and Roberto blushing too. Yeah, you know, I guess I was surprised. I was only surprised by the Jubilee and Sunspot thing because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in the comic books, I don't know if I thought Sunspot was gay in the comic books, but maybe he's bi, if I'm not mistaken. Because at least maybe in the recent iterations of comics, I thought he was gay, but he might be bi. But I've loved their bond and their friendship that they've kind of established over the first couple episodes, especially with him relying on Jubilee kind of saving his life sort of very early on in here. Them being closer to age, you know, I think she can easily relate to him in the sense of like, you know, my life went to shit immediately too and went to an upheaval. And, you know, I had to kind of get used to the idea of like, this is what my life is going to kind of be. So the fact that Sunspot has somebody like her to really rely on, I think it's a great combination that they wind up putting together in here. If I can be honest, I am not a fan of Mojo. I'm just not a fan of Mojo. You know, I think Mojo was very much a long shot villain, or he always had a lot of like storylines dealing with Mojo. I just never really cared for Mojo as a character, so I usually tend to fall asleep or like skip a lot of those comic book issues, to be quite frank with you. But I really did enjoy sort of the idea of like the digital video game art style that they incorporated in here from just the regular animated style. But the character itself, I still got really annoyed by. If there was an issue that I do have with this series a little bit, sometimes I feel like the pacing is really fast. Like, I am kind of curious, like, how much time has passed with the Forge and Storm storyline? Because Homeboy's talking about loving her, and I do find their story compelling in the sense of like Storm feeling like she was used, like she was just a project for Forge to kind of get his own confidence in himself kind of back. But maybe that's what it started out as, or like to redeem himself a little bit. Maybe that's what it started out as, but now he's kind of fallen in love with her, sort of thing. And I love the pushback that Storm gets to that feeling kind of used a little bit. But they do have a dynamic sort of story here. I just wish that they took a little bit more time to kind of tell that story. And I think maybe that's where like the classic pacing of having longer seasons really helps benefit the classic 1990s X-Men series, because there are moments in here that I do feel like stories are being very much rushed, and I really would like them to take their time and explaining things and allowing us to really sit on something like that Forge and Storm relationship to really bloom and grow a little bit more. I thought it was pretty cool that we did get to see X Factor in here. I think somebody had mentioned in the live viewer questions last week, like, would we see, I don't remember if they said, would we see X Force or X Factor? But we definitely saw X Factor to a certain extent, maybe not in the way that we thought we would, but we did see like the classic comic book version, like a photo of them, where you saw Alex Summers as Havoc in there. But definitely 90s, very definitely 90s costumes for sure. So we did get at least a brief cameo in that regards, but we'll see how it goes. I've continued to really enjoy it. I don't think this episode was as strong as some of the other ones, but it still had good elements to it. Remember last week I called the Boom Boom Girl Rangers battle wheels. How'd it be if they were imagined by a race car driver who was inspired by Power Rangers as a kid? Maybe one day I'd have the Rangers imagined by different people reunite with their creators. That's pretty cool, Blossom. I kind of dig that idea, honestly. Peg C. Have you seen the trailer for Bambi's The Reckoning? If so, what did you think? No, I did not get the opportunity to see Bambi's The Reckoning. I did miss it, honestly. That's a bummer, man. That's a bummer. I'm sad that I missed out on that. Let me see real quick here, because I didn't get a chance to see it. So I am kind of fascinated now, because they did announce the Poohniverse. That's right, the Poohniverse. Where it's the Winnie the Pooh sort of horror films that they've been doing so far, the Blood and Honey. They have plans on doing like a Peter Pan, a Bambi one. I mean, they're really diving into this. Bambi, The Reckoning trailer. Let me see if I can find it on. Oh my God, that looks horrifying. It's from Rotten Tomatoes. Let me see if I can pull this up here, guys. I'm gonna pause this this background track for just a minute. Let's stop sharing this real quick. Let me check out this this trailer here. See what this shit is about. All right, let's check this out. Damn, that's terrifying. That's creepy.
You ever shot a deer?
No. Have you?
Yeah. Once.
Damn, Bambi's pissed. Bambi's pissed. You shot my mother. I'm assuming that's who that hunter was. When he says, yeah, once. Yeah, he's probably killed Bambi's mom. That's probably who that dude is. Holy cow. Holy cow. Although the long trek, maybe I have to watch that again, but like the long trek of the tracking shot here. So clearly Bambi's watching him here. Hold on, let me see if I can bring this up again. I'm trying to see, like, did I miss something in this scene? It feels very much like Bambi's watching them from the shadows or like from the distance or something here.
Once.
I just wanted to go back because I was wondering. I, I was looking at that long tracking shot of him again, looking at aiming down the barrel. And I was like, why are they just zooming in on this dude? Like, why is this such a long tracking shot for nothing to happen here? I was like, is there something happening in the background sort of mentality? Like, I didn't see anything or whatsoever. So if anything, I would just say if I had a complaint about this, I don't think that last shot of the guy aiming down the barrel needed to be as long as it was. I think they probably could have cut that one off pretty quickly, or just went from once and then boom, Bambi the Reckoning, and then lead into the Bambi stuff. Trippy, man, trippy. But they're fully embracing this stuff, man. They're fully embracing this concept of they're fully embracing the concept of this Puniverse that they're really putting together here. But first impression, cool trailer, man. Cool trailer, if you ask me. You definitely hit on the idea of like that dude clearly killed Bambi's mom. I kind of want to know, like, without the guidance of her of Bambi's mother, she goes on a massive killing spree, and she resents all humans. I mean, she clearly has put on some beef, man, flipping over the entire car. I don't know what's giving her such abnormal strength. Maybe the loss of her mom has made her feel some type of way. But yeah, man, I don't know if it's going to be any good, but we'll see. Did you ever watch the original RoboCop film? And if so, what were your first impressions? I watched RoboCop as a kid. I probably was way too young to have seen that movie when I watched it, but I remember there were definitely some startling just imagery moments that I definitely like, some pull the covers up to your eyes sort of moments. Seeing him as a cop, Murphy getting shot down was brutal. There's a shot towards the end, the battles at the end when RoboCop's taking down the gang members. When he throws one of the guys get caught in like the vat of like toxic waste, and he turns up and he's just like this morphed like face and skin all peeling off and hanging. I mean, it was violent. Like, it was just visceral, I should say. It was a very visceral film, and they didn't really hold back on much. Looking back, I don't even know what the film was rated, but I know films were just rated very differently back then. Like, that might have been like a PG-13 film, if that. But I definitely saw it probably before I was 13. But it was super impactful for me as a kid. But I really enjoyed it. I thought the soundtrack was bananas. I thought RoboCop just looked the absolute coolest. I just remember thinking whenever I had a toy gun, I wanted to be able to spin it on my fingers like that and put it back into my pocket. I thought he was just a badass superhero. I don't know if I fully understood the inner workings and like the deeper concepts of RoboCop, of the idea, outside of the fact that like he was once a man, he was killed, and they put him inside of this metal suit to bring him back. I don't know if I fully connected at the time with like you know, him still holding on to his life and his memories and wanting to see his wife and his family and stuff, you know. But as I got more into it and watched it over the years again, it definitely hit me a little bit harder for sure. But my first impressions were like, holy I absolutely loved it. Definitely left a great first impression on me. I will once says, so like poo, blood, and honey. Yes, absolutely like poo, blood, and honey. It's all part of their Pooniverse that they're putting together. Do I have an image of that? There was like, they did release like a breakdown of the movies that they were gonna give us. I'm trying to see if I saved the list or not. I think there's a Pinocchio movie that's coming out too. No, it doesn't look like I saved the list, but there's like a Peter Pan movie. I think there's a Pinocchio movie. They have Bambi coming out clearly, and I think they're even doing a third Blood and Honey too, if I'm not mistaken. What are your thoughts on the Batman Beyond animated movie Return of the Joker? I never had the opportunity to see it, Peg C. I'm sorry, man. Never had the opportunity to see it. Marcelino, what's up, Marcelino? Blumhouse is attached to make Spawn movie. While I love a lot of movies that Blumhouse has made, I do have one concern. Spawn has 30 years of lore perfect to start a franchise, but Blumhouse is known for independent one-off films. They have made sequels, but never try making franchises like Disney or Warner Brothers. I think they could probably pull off a Spawn movie, but going forward, I don't know if they make it a long-standing franchise. Your thoughts? I think they will probably, I get the concern. I think if anything, they probably are looking at this as a one-off. You know, I think again, I don't know what Todd McFarlane has in regards to the script, but I think this is very much going to be a story about Al Simmons, the Spawn himself. And if I'm Blumhouse, I'm looking at it in the sense of, let's just make one great movie. So, you know, I think everybody probably wants to be able to create like a great standing franchise, a long-standing franchise. But I think just based off of what happened with the first Spawn, you very much got to make sure that you have a great first movie out the gate. And if Blumhouse can do that, then maybe that's the route that they will certainly go. But I don't know if I'm Blumhouse, if I'm automatically looking at this as we need a immediate trilogy, you know. I'm hoping that they are really going to be focusing on the idea of just creating one first, and then let's kind of go from there. I mean, you know, they did do Halloween, if I'm not mistaken. Blumhouse has also done the Insidious movies, and we wind up getting 3 movies out of that too. 4 movies out of that, excuse me. Just looking at some of their films that they've done. Paranormal Activity, right? They've done a franchise, so so it does look like they have had some franchises under their belt. Yeah, just looking at Blumhouse movies, I'm seeing Sinisters 1 and 2, a lot of the Paranormal Activity stuff. Insidious is there, Halloween, the most recent Halloween trilogy. So I do think that there is an opportunity there. You can say some of those have been successful, some of those haven't. Like Paranormal Activity, I think was successful for a while, and then it certainly ran its course. The Insidious movies, I think some people actually enjoyed the most recent entry into it, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a potential there, I think. But I think for them, Jason Blum seems really excited to get Spawn off out of production hell, no pun intended. But I think you make a first one and see where you go from there. You also said, you have said if there's going to be a female James Bond, it shouldn't be a gender swap. James Bond, but rather than the 007 is a moniker that should be passed on. However, I talked to a couple of people who want gender swap James Bond, where the character's name is Jamala or Jamie Bond. If you got a choice to talk to these people, what would you say to them? Because these get labeled as SJW terrorists who ruin Hollywood. Look, if that's what they want, then you know that's cool that they have that perspective. I just don't I just don't share that with them. I mean, I think like you've got James Bond is such a, I don't want to say such a pivotal character, but he's got like just a huge lore, right? Like the books that go back years that were written for this particular character, very much established sort of as a man. And so for me in that regards, like again, I don't know. I was, I was joking when I said like Jamila Bond last week or whatever this hell I called her the last time we talked about this. I was joking, but I didn't know that there was really like people out there that really wanted that concept to be done, because my idea is just like that would just be a little bit too on the nose for me. Can a woman be a womanizer? Yeah, I think those are called man-eaters. So like I think you can have a woman with the same attributes of that of James Bond, but we've had such a long linear of history of that character. Like Doctor Who, I think is different from me in the sense of like, while we have had years of lore, it's a doctor who literally transforms into, and it's an alien. So that in that regards, I don't have a problem with the idea of like the Doctor Who turning into a female and being that type of person. But the idea that there's plenty of established lore of like, writers that have established this character well, even before like the movies have wind up sort of becoming a thing. I think it's just easier to pull off the idea of just creating another character, but giving her the 007 moniker. Because a lot of these movies, mind you, when they're made, I don't think they have like even James Bond in the title. I think it's very much like a 007 GoldenEye, 007 yada yada yada. I don't think it's ever like a James Bond GoldenEye, like they really establish and utilize the 007 moniker. Now if you were to tell me, somewhere down in James Bond lore, James Bond had a daughter and her name is Bond, last name Bond, right? And it's like part of a lineage, because let's be real, James Bond has slept with a lot of women in his life. Okay, a lot of women. Who's to say his pullout game wasn't the best? You know what I'm saying? And we get a female Bond that's like, his daughter. If you go that route, hey, you know what? Female Bond, boom, makes sense storyline wise. She gets the 007, boom. Let's do that. I just think narratively, there are just so many other ways you can go with the idea of all of a sudden slapping James Bond is now a female Jamila Bond. Like that just feels very much like too on the nose, whereas I feel like there's so many other great avenues that you can go with, especially when a lot of the movies again are titled more 007 than they are James Bond. I think you can get away with the idea of giving us a 007 female agent, or even a daughter of James Bond, than going the other way of making James Bond a female. So that's just, if anything, that would be my argument that I would put, is like, here's another storyline concept. Like, would you be cool with that, of it being a daughter sort of thing, right? Like, I think there could be a middle ground here, in the sense of like, to me, it's just like, why? I would much rather have somebody else establish a legacy for themselves than completely flipping the legacy of what James Bond has been after all those years. And I'm usually the one that's like, I don't have a problem sometimes with that concept of gender swapping, but I also think you have to be smart about the characters in which you are deciding to do that with. But maybe there's an argument that I don't know. I Will One says, wasn't there a spin-off from No Time to Die starring Anna de Armas and Lashana Lynch? I think that there was, or at least if it wasn't a spin-off, maybe the continuation of that story. But again, I mean, I don't think the James Bond movies have ever been titled James Bond this. I always think that they've been titled 007 and something. But if I'm wrong, let me know in the comic books. Marceline says, I told you that the reason why we never saw Static and other Milestone characters can be used more in the media or even the main comics was because of some licensing issues. What are your thoughts when hearing this, and does this change your perspective on a few things? Because for the longest time, I thought DC was too stubborn on using Milestone characters, but not knowing it's Milestone being stubborn. I find it ironic that Milestone was created more representation in comics, yet they're doing something anti-diversity. Now, to clarify, I don't think Milestone is intentionally being anti-diverse. I'm simply pointing out their stubbornness. I mean, yeah, I mean, there were plenty of times I definitely blamed DC in the underutilization of it. So in that regards, I can definitely easily take back some of the things that I might have said in the past of, wishing that, man, why doesn't DC use some of these characters a little bit more? To Milestone's defense, though, well, I wouldn't look at it so much as anti-diversity. I would almost look at it, and again, this is just me speculating, I would maybe utilize it more as like a protection of your characters, right? Like if these are your characters that you've established, maybe in certain regards, you don't want them to be overutilized too much in a sense of watering down what their initial creation was all about. Maybe if you put them out there more, maybe that message of that diversity message kind of gets watered down a little bit, and maybe you get some writers eventually attached to it 10-20 years down the road that had kind of lost sight of that and winds up turning these characters into something that they're not. So maybe it's just a protection of their property. So in that regards, I can't be mad at them, but I do wish that they would unleash some of these Milestone characters. Like for instance, when I look at, remember that story that we had of Michael B. Jordan possibly doing a Superman movie? There was a part of me that's like, while I understand that we have Black Superman in DC Comics, man, I would really like to see him play Icon. I really would like to see him represent sort of a black superhero in that regards. Granted, again, it's another Black Superman. Yes, I get that, but I just think the Milestone comic book characters come with such a oomph behind them that if you really want to like propel Black superheroes into the main spotlight, I think Milestone characters are a great way to certainly go ahead and do that. So yeah, just a little bit of a shame that Milestone hasn't allowed their characters to kind of be utilized, but it kind of reminds me too of like Todd McFarlane being very protective of Spawn, not really wanting other people to kind of put their hands on it, probably to the detriment of Spawn, because I do think we probably should have had a Spawn movie, another one, a long time ago. So yeah, sometimes it's to the detriment of your characters, but I can't be too mad at them. Jessica Fryman, do you think the right marketing and streaming platform Kamen Rider could make a comeback in America one day? When you think of the next season, and when you think we'll see the next season of Harley Quinn? I'm not quite sure. I thought, wasn't there an announcement for another season of Harley Quinn? But maybe that season already dropped. So I'm not quite sure when we'll get ourselves another Harley Quinn. But I do think that there's Power Rangers is kind of being rebooted here a little bit. I think there is a place for a Kamen Rider adaptation if marketed right and a streaming platform. I think they already had like Kamen Rider on Amazon recently. Was a Black Sun, I think. I never got the opportunity to check out the Black Sun Kamen Rider, but I believe it is on Amazon for anybody to certainly watch. So I do think it has a lot to do with your streaming platform, but marketing too. And I wouldn't mind seeing another American adaptation of Kamen Rider this day and age. especially with all the streaming services that we have, I just think there's plenty of opportunity. It's just really going to come down to what the story asks for. And last but not least, we got a couple questions. Do you think the quiet from Johnny Marrero? What's up, Johnny? Good to see you, man. Do you think the Quiet on the Set documentary might shut down Nickelodeon or put their live action stuff on hold? No, I don't think so. I don't think it'll shut down Nickelodeon. I mean, you maybe some live action stuff on hold in the sense of like, look, we need to get new producers in here. Like if they haven't already expunged these executive producers that had anything to do with these this time on set, they need to go. Like anybody associated with them, like need to go. Like if you knew about it and you didn't say anything, you need to go. So whether that means like Nickelodeon needs to have new management up at the top, new executive producers when it comes to live action, then Nickelodeon should do what it needs to do in order to get those people out of that position and hire new people for sure. So maybe in turn that puts live action stuff on hold, but I don't see Nickelodeon being shut down in regards to this. If anything, maybe some lawsuits. I don't know. Again, I haven't watched the series in full. So maybe some lawsuits and stuff like that, but to get away from that, let those people go. If those people that had a role to play like that and didn't say anything are still with that company after all those years, yeah, they need to be let go for sure. No hesitation. Boom. Because if you're Nickelodeon, you don't want that spotlight on you anymore, right? Like it's already had people view you in a certain light, and if you truly have intentions on, what's up, Crystal? Good to see you in here. I appreciate your reaction to Tales of the Jedi, man. I see you getting some numbers from that too and some subscribers. You're killing the game, Crystal. Keep it up. We talked a little bit about Tales of the Empire if you missed it a little bit earlier, if you want to check that out too. But good to see you in here, Crystal. But yeah, if you're a Nickelodeon, yeah, you want to wash your hands of that quick. So yeah, any executive producers, get them out of here, man. They don't need to be in there. With the Darkest Hour coming to an end soon for Power Ranger comics, if they do start a season 3 of MMPR, could the Rangers get upgraded suits for the next arc like classic MMPR suits but better? Yeah, why not? They don't Boom Studios doesn't mind, Boom Comics doesn't mind taking liberties in that regards. But yeah, why not? I'd be down for that. Do you think a Forever Red comic could still happen in the near future? Yeah, I think so. I think so. I would like to see it with a new generation. That would be pretty cool. Give me like a limited series of that. I would be down for that, to be quite frank with you. But yeah, guys, I think let me just refresh this, see if there's any other questions that you guys might have. But yeah, Crystal, if you're still here, I know you love the trailer. I know you've had time to kind of sit on the trailer for the Tales of the Empire. If you have any other thoughts, I would love to hear your thoughts in the chat for sure. Because we were talking about, like, for me, I think I'm fascinated that Barriss and Morgan both have ties and associations with Ahsoka. And the fact that they're giving them both the spotlight in here, it does make me wonder if that opens up the possibility of maybe Barriss popping back up in Ahsoka season 2, because I think a lot of people were kind of curious whether or not she would have a role in the first season, and when she was nowhere to be found, some people were kind of concerned, like, will we get the opportunity to see Barriss's story kind of continue? But again, with the first Tales of the Jedi, each those main characters only got like 3 episodes to work with. So I'm expecting another 3 episodes here for Barriss, but I'm really curious to see like what pivotal moments in Barriss's life that they focus on here. And if Ahsoka pops up at all in this series based off of the connection between Barriss and Morgan. And if Barriss does make it out of this mini series here, is that like a prelude to seeing more of her possibly in Ahsoka 2? Crystal says that, well, I'm hoping Barriss gets a redemption because it's not Tales of the Dark Side. Maybe we'll get a switch up. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. That would be pretty interesting too, especially based off of what she said to the Senate, when she confessed her crimes and stuff. Does she have a new perspective after being introduced that deeply into the Inquisitors? So I'm also excited to see Vader. Would be super interesting to see Vader and Barris interact. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you there. I was so focused very much on her being picked up and trained by, or being brought into the fold by the Grand Inquisitor. But I think even in the trailer, is she like the first one to kneel out of the 4 Inquisitors when Vader walks in? I found that pretty compelling, that she's like the first one to drop to her knees. So yeah, the interaction between her and Barris and Vader, I think would be pretty promising. So I'm looking forward to it. But y'all, look, if you guys like Star Wars content, man, Crystal's got a great YouTube channel, Crystal Kyber, like Kyber Crystal. Get it? So yeah, check out her YouTube whenever you get a chance. But guys, I think that's going to do it for me here for our live viewer questions segment. Let me just refresh this one more time to make sure that we got everything here, all you guys' questions. I believe so. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts. Coming up this week on the channel, Boom Boomger review, episode number 5. I am contemplating. I usually pre-record those Sunday and have them up on Monday. There's a part of me that wants to see if I can start doing live reviews for that, maybe like Monday night for you guys. Let me know if you guys would appreciate like live reviews to interact with me on the live chat for Boom Boomger. I think we're going to have our X-Men 97 review coming to you guys from Indy. Next weekend, we'll definitely be here with another live episode of A+ Hero Report. I'll probably have at least Stuart with me, so stay tuned for that. And of course, we'll probably have any news or trailer reviews that wind up dropping certainly throughout the week. It is April 7th. We are less than a month away from May the 4th. So maybe we'll do some really cool Star Wars stuff for sure. If anything, maybe I know I reached out to Crystal to see if maybe we can do some collaboration on some Star Wars stuff from time to time. So we'll definitely reach out more and see if we can do something maybe special for May the 4th weekend also. If anything, we'll definitely keep you guys posted up on our news. If you want to follow us, our main page is usually our Facebook page, where we keep you posted on the news on a daily basis. We drop posters, trailers, any information that comes out for you guys, reels and things like that too. You can also find us on social media at A+ Opinions, pretty much everywhere. We're also on TikTok at Hero Report if you want to follow us there as well. And yeah, guys, just trying to continue to bring you guys new content each and every week. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Feel free to share these videos, guys. We certainly do appreciate it. But that's going to do it for me here. So until next time, guys, do us a big favor as always. There we go. It's like now my thing wants to freeze up on me, but I think we're good now. All right, y'all. We'll see you guys later. But until next time, do me a big favor as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.